Battle through the heaven. Marrying Xun'er, but she refused the wedding night. Chapter 21. Love is growing. Xiao Yan arrives. Xiao Yixian was picking herbs carefully with his eyelids drooping. Her long hair fell on her sides and her eyes were serious, making her look exceptionally beautiful. But such a simple girl. Ji Yufei closed his eyes. He knew that Xiao Yixian had a poisonous physique. At present, Xiao Yixian is still unaware of this matter. The seven-colored poison sutra that she had just obtained contained some descriptions of this physique. When Xiao Yixian finishes this matter and reads the seven-colored poison sutra, he will know the truth. The poisonous body is feared by countless people throughout history, but it is also coveted by many people who want to take the evil path. Because these people hardly use cultivation, they can quickly improve their cultivation base just by swallowing poison. But poison is poison after all. While the cultivation base increases rapidly, it will also harm your own body. Moreover, this process of improving the cultivation base is full of pain. Moreover, the evil poison body would erupt from time to time. When an eruption occurs, if a person cannot bear it, he would become a slave of the evil poison body, lose his mind, and start killing people until he loses his life in the end. Therefore, many people who have been addicted to the poisonous body of disaster eventually end up killing those close to them and finally committing suicide in pain. The poisonous body of evil chose Xiao Yixian, and this was Xiao Yixian's destiny. The seal on her poisonous body has not yet been released, so of course she can just pretend that nothing happened. Pretend not to notice what happened today, return to Qingshan town to live an ordinary but happy life, and live an ordinary life. Of course, you can also break the seal and face the unknown other side out of your desire for power. Ji Yufei would not interfere too much in her choice. How to choose, whether to activate or not activate this physique, is all decided by Xiao Yixian himself. Moreover, although the poisonous body of the evil spirit is terrifying, it is not completely impossible to save it. At least, Ji Yufei remembered that in the original book, Yao Lao had a way, and he saved Xiao Yixian's life with this method. He remembered that he used the method of poison pill to eliminate the hidden danger of the poisonous body. The evil poison body has no side effects, only positive power remains. Ji Yufei was leaning against the edge of the cave, thinking with his eyes downcast, but was awakened by Xiao Yixian's brisk voice. "Sir, I have collected all these herbs. Here are them for you." While Ji Yufei was thinking, Xiao Yixian had already walked over happily with a pile of medicinal herbs. Her eyes were sparkling and a few drops of sweat appeared on her forehead from picking herbs. The purple hair was soaked with sweat, sticking to Xiao Yixian's neck and cheeks. The girl has a gentle look like a lotus emerging from the water, and her beauty adds a bit of charm. Ji Yufei raised the corner of his mouth and put all the medicinal herbs into the storage ring without refusing. "Well, let's go back to the herb-picking team. If we stay out for too long, someone might get suspicious." Xiao Yixian remembered that she and Ji Yufei had been out for too long, and Mu Li's group of wolf-head mercenaries had also disappeared for a long time. If they don't show up again, people will probably suspect her and Ji Yufei, she said quickly. Ji Yufei nodded, then walked behind Xiao Yixian, with her leading the way, and the two of them walked out of the cave one after the other. They reached the platform at the bottom of the cliff. This time, Ji Yufei still held Xiao Yixian's slender waist and flew up. He was very gentlemanly, holding her lightly, but he was afraid that Xiao Yixian would struggle and fall off, so he also used some strength. Xiao Yixian feels happy, and his mood value increases by 100. The flight time is very short. But Xiao Yixian actually seemed to be enjoying herself, and Ji Yufei unconsciously glanced at her secretly. Missy's face was flushed, the corners of her mouth were upturned, and she looked very relaxed. When Ji Yufei put her on the ground, she looked at the hand reluctantly before looking away. After this incident, Xiao Yixian developed a deep affection for Ji Yufei. She herself didn't realize it, but the fact was that this affection had already somewhat exceeded the boundaries of friendship. Even some romantic feelings began to sprout. When the two men reached the top of the cliff, only Mu Li's cold body was lying there. It seemed that Mu Li died with his eyes open, but he would be left in this dense forest from now on, with no chance to breathe, and might even be eaten by wild beasts soon. Those members of the cultivation base wolf-head mercenary group who had been crippled by Ji Yufei had already run away as soon as Ji Yufei and Xiao Yixian got down the cliff. They didn't dare to stay here at all, and even didn't dare to return to the team. Young Captain Muli died, and they didn't dare to collect his body, so they could only leave him there alone. Because he failed to protect the young leader, he would be dead if he returned to the mercenary group. The leader's torture methods were even more horrific. Therefore, the only thing left for them to do is to escape from the monster mountain range at all costs and become ordinary people from now on. Ji Yufei didn't care about these things, nor did he bother to care. He returned to the herb-picking team with Xiao Yixian as if nothing had happened, looking extremely calm. It was the first time that Xiao Yixian did something like this, and although his acting was a little stiff, he managed to fool the mercenaries. Although some people noticed that many members of the Wolf Head mercenary group were missing, they did not think it was them. On the Lois Road 100 miles away from Qingshan town, a young man in black was struggling forward. His face still looked a little childish, but his eyes were very determined. Looking closely, I saw that the young man in black was carrying an extremely large black sword on his back. However, rather than calling it a giant sword, it would be more accurate to call it a thick iron ruler without a sharp edge or blade. The black giant sword also had no tip. At the end of the giant sword, it was as if it was cut in half by something, revealing a cross-section as smooth as a mirror. On the surface of the pitch-black giant sword, there were some fuzzy and strange lines painted on it. These lines spread all the way to the hilt and almost covered all parts of the sword. The strange patterns, combined with the simple black color, looked quite mysterious. The length of the strange giant sword was almost longer than the boy's height. It looked like the giant sword was going to crush the boy in the next second. This strange combination made some people who occasionally passed by couldn't help but cast curious glances at him. This person is Xiao Yan. Teacher, you said before that you wanted me to cross the monster mountain range. I don't know what your intention is. Do you want me to stand in danger so that I can unleash my body's true potential? Xiao Yan paused and spoke as if to himself, but the answer he expected did not appear. It seems that the teacher hasn't woken up yet. I can only rely on myself for all this. After a long time, Xiao Yan sighed and continued on his way. Chapter 22 Xun'er returns to Wudin City again. Wudin City, Xiao family. At this time, quite a bit of time had passed since Xiao Yan went out for training. Before he left, with the help of Yao Lao, he left a large number of alchemy pills to the Xiao family and occupied the largest market. As for the people of the Xiao family, it was like a long-awaited rain. Their past of being trampled underfoot made them madly desire to become stronger. With the large amount of alchemy pills provided by Xiao Yan, they undoubtedly became the largest family in Wudin City. Today, everyone suddenly discovered that Xun'er, who left the family a year ago, has returned. This news spread quickly as Xun'er returned to the Xiao family. Xun'er hurried to the Xiao family. Uncle Xiao. When she saw Xiao Zhan, she still bowed politely to Xiao Yan's father Xiao Zhan as she did before. When Xiao Zhan smiled and signaled Xun'er not to be polite, Xun'er immediately raised his head and asked anxiously, Uncle Xiao, where is brother Xiao Yan? Xiao Zhan was silent for a moment, then said, Xun'er has been out for training for some time. She didn't have time to reminisce or exchange pleasantries. She quickly thanked Xiao Zhan, then stood up, holding up her skirt, and immediately planned to go look for Xiao Yan. Xun'er sneaked out of Jiyu clan this time, accompanied not only by Ling Ying, the 8-star Dou sovereign, but also a powerful Jiyu clan Dou ancestor who followed in secret. After all, Xun'er is Jiyu Yuan's favorite. As the head of the clan, how could he not notice any disturbance in the Jiyu domain? As soon as Xun'er was about to sneak away, he got the news. His daughter is growing up, and he can't take care of her forever. Just as a bird's wings are gradually growing stronger, he must give her space to fly. Jiyu Yuan sighed secretly and decided to let go, but how could he not send someone to keep an eye on Xun'er's safety? Therefore, Ling Ying and another Dou ancestor warrior were sent to follow Xun'er. Furthermore, if Xun'er encountered a life or death crisis, facing a dangerous situation, she only needed 1 second to struggle. Then she could crush the space jade slip she carried with her and summon Jiyu Yuan, who was far away in the Jiyu domain. Jiyu Yuan has put a lot of effort into this daughter, and she only hopes that she can grow up safely. Jiyu Yuan silently watched Xun'er's departing back and let out a long sigh. On this side, after some investigation, Xun'er quickly learned of Xiao Yan's whereabouts. After thinking for a moment, she decided to go to the Warcraft Mountains with Ling Ying to find Xiao Yan. Warcraft Mountains. At this moment, Ji Yufei and Xiao Yixian and his group had already collected a lot of medicinal herbs. Although Ji Yufei's storage ring still had a lot of space, it no longer had the medicinal herbs he needed. Brother Ji Yufei, we. Xiao Yixian looked at Ji Yufei, and before he finished speaking, Ji Yufei nodded. So she told the mercenaries and prepared to go down the mountain. However, her beautiful eyes were filled with worry and her brows were furrowed. Xiao Yixian becomes anxious, his emotion value increases by 100 with the help of the system. Ji Yufei certainly noticed that Xiao Yixian was not in a good condition, but he didn't say anything. Xiao Yixian was quite absent-minded. He walked without even noticing when Ji Yufei in front of him stopped. He bumped into his strong back and then came to his senses. There was still no relaxation between her brows, and she felt a little depressed. Ji Yufei stared at her for a moment and shook his head. The reason why Xiao Yixian was so worried was that, in her spare time from collecting herbs, she had read the 7-colored poison scripture that she had obtained in the cave under the cliff. When she saw the 4 words, "evil poison body," at the beginning of one of the pages, her heart sank slightly. An inexplicable feeling told her that she would regret it if she finished reading it. But Xiao Yixian pursed his lips and continued to read. After reading the entire 7-colored poison sutra, she realized that she had the physique of the evil poison body. Xiao Yixian could feel that the seal on her poisonous body had not yet been released, so she tried her best to persuade herself not to let her wild thoughts run wild. Right now, the more important thing is clearly the matter of the wolf-head mercenary group. This time, Ji Yufei killed Mu Li, the young leader of the wolf-head mercenary group. Although there were no witnesses left, the surviving mercenaries did not have the courage to go back and tell the story. However, the people from the wolf-head mercenary group would most likely think of her. After all, this was Ji Yufei's first visit among the group, and logically, there shouldn't be any conflicts between him and Mu Li. The vast majority of the remaining mercenaries were not as strong as Mu Li and could not kill him, and those very few who were stronger than Mu Li could not afford to offend the wolf-head mercenaries. Therefore, if they think carefully, they may suspect Xiao Yixian. If Xiao Yixian continues to return to Qingshan town, I'm afraid the wolf-head mercenaries will not let her go. Although Ji Yufei is strong, he probably won't continue to stay in a small place like Qingshan town. Xiao Yixian's pair of clear purple eyes were full of worry. Xiao Yixian becomes worried and his emotion value increases by 100. Ji Yufei sighed. He could certainly see that Xiao Yixian was worried. It was impossible for him to wait for Xiao Yixian to come to his senses, because Missy was always prone to fantasies. Ji Yufei stepped forward and whispered, "Xiao Yixian, are you worried that you will be retaliated by the wolf-head mercenary group after returning to Qingshan town?" His face was gentle and his eyes were fixed on Xiao Yixian. She hesitated for a moment. "Well, young master, you may not know that the wolf-head mercenary group is the most powerful mercenary group in the entire Qingshan town. The mercenary group will not let it go even if their young leader dies. Moreover, Mu Li is the leader's son." Xiao Yixian nodded and admitted it generously. Xiao Yixian was too worried. The wolf-head mercenaries were very ruthless and anyone who offended them would suffer the consequences. Now, their young leader has died inexplicably, and the revenge will be even more terrifying. Ji Yufei smiled and said calmly, "Don't worry, I will solve all the problems. Next, I will leave on the surface, but I will stay in Qingshan town for a few days. If anyone tries to do anything bad to you, I will deal with them all." Ji Yufei paused. "Just be a good Xiao Yixian, and leave everything else to me." Xiao Yixian is moved, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian stared at Ji Yufei in a daze. The confidence in his voice made Xiao Yixian feel warm in his heart and feel full of security. Ji Yufei looked down at the girl with purple hair and purple eyes. Her eye sockets were lightly misted, as if she was about to cry. In Qingshan town, everyone respected Xiao Yixian, but no one had ever told her, "Just be a good Xiao Yixian, and leave everything else to me." Xiao Yixian felt a little choked up in his throat, and his long-lost heartbeat accelerated again. Xiao Yixian develops admiration, emotional value increases by 100. She didn't say anything more, but her expression became much calmer, and she followed Ji Yufei down the mountain. Chapter 23. Come on, I'll take you to kill someone. After returning to Qingshan town, Ji Yufei immediately hid himself and did not show up in front of others. He looked at Xiao Yixian deeply, told her not to worry, and then fell silent. Xiao Yixian feels depressed, his emotion value increases by 100. Although a plan had been made in advance, Xiao Yixian still felt heartbroken when he saw Ji Yufei suddenly disappear. She concealed the fluctuations on her face and looked calm. As Ji Yufei had said before, when Boss Yao asked about it, she announced to the public that the powerful alchemist had left. It is said that after Ji Yufei obtained satisfactory medicinal materials, he separated from the herb collecting team when going down the mountain. That adult actually left. After hearing this, Boss Yao responded indifferently, feeling regretful that he had not been able to curry favor with the great alchemist. Qingshan Town, the headquarters of the Wolf Head mercenary group. Mu Shi was furious when he learned that his son Mu Li had died tragically and no one had come to collect his body, leaving him alone in the Monster Mountain range. His eyes were bloodshot, and the cup in his hand was crushed to pieces in an instant. Shards of glass fluttered down, and Mu Shi looked gloomy and gritted his teeth. He was certainly not stupid. After much thought, he concluded that the only suspect was Xiao Yixian. He knew that Mu Li's death was related to the young doctor from Wanyaojai, so he couldn't help but immediately send someone to kill Xiao Yixian to vent his anger. But at first he didn't know that the powerful alchemist who protected Xiao Yixian had left and was waiting for his face. The subordinates sent a message. Taoist Xiao Yixian said that Ji Yufei had left first. Mu Shi smiled sinisterly, his expression full of murderous intent. Go, send someone to inform Boss Yao of Wanyaojai to hand over Xiao Yixian. Otherwise, when I come to your house in person, you won't be treated this way. His men rarely saw Mu Shi so gloomy, so they whispered, yes, tremblingly and hurried to Wanyaojai. At the same time, Boss Yao of Wanyaojai revealed his true face after repeatedly confirming that Ji Yufei had left. He was very smooth and shrewd in dealing with people, so he could naturally see that Ji Yufei had been protecting Xiao Yixian intentionally or unintentionally before. Now that Ji Yufei has really left, Xiao Yixian will just let him do whatever he wants. Boss Yao has always known something about the treasure under the cliff, but he has never revealed it. That is why he has always been greedy and wanted to get a piece of the pie. Boss Yao knew that Xiao Yixian and Ji Yufei must have retrieved the treasure on this trip. Now that Ji Yufei was gone, he sent people to put Xiao Yixian under house arrest and kept asking about the whereabouts of the treasure. The situation was just short of a body search. Moreover, after Boss Yao received Mu Shi's message, he agreed to Mu Shi without hesitation. He raised the corners of his mouth and revealed a sinister smile. Boss Yao was planning to hand Xiao Yixian over to Mu Shi to vent his anger after finding out the treasure. Xiao Yixian was suddenly placed under house arrest, and the smart girl soon discovered that this was a conspiracy by Boss Yao. Of course she couldn't believe it, because Boss Yao always looked kind and peaceful, and had never even said anything harsh. She also overheard Mu Shi's name during their conversation. I'm afraid Mu Shi has asked Boss Yao for her. This series of events happened so quickly that Xiao Yixian was very worried. However, she remembered what Ji Yufei had told her in the Monster Mountain range before, and gradually calmed down. That night, Boss Yao's men questioned him again without any result and left angrily. Xiao Yixian leaned against the wall tiredly with a blank look in his eyes. It seems that after I leave, many people will indeed attack you. Xiao Yixian, are you okay now? Xiao Yixian is surprised, and his emotion value increases by 100 when Xiao Yixian heard the familiar gentle voice. He opened his eyes suddenly, full of surprise. It turned out that Ji Yufei appeared directly in Xiao Yixian's room. He walked over step by step, picked up a chair, and sat down in front of Xiao Yixian. Brother Ji Yufei, you are finally here. Xiao Yixian is moved, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian was interrogated and forced for a whole day. Although he was not hurt physically, he was very tired mentally. When she finally saw Ji Yufei at this time, her eyes were red and she was filled with emotion. Come on, I'll take you to kill someone. Ji Yufei smiled slightly, and his expression was no different from usual when he said this. But his words made Xiao Yixian stunned. Xiao Yixian is moved, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian couldn't tell what he felt at that moment. It was sour and numb, but not unpleasant. Next, Ji Yufei took Xiao Yixian and walked out of the room in a swagger. Xiao Yixian's heartbeat quickened for a moment. and he saw that the ferocious guards who were originally sitting at the door of the room were now all lying on the table, as if they were dreaming a dream from which they could not wake up. They first went to Boss Yao's residence. Boss Yao had already gone to bed. When he heard the sound, he sat up suddenly and shouted, "Who?" "It's me." Ji Yufei approached him, followed by Xiao Yixian. Two people who shouldn't be here showed up together. Boss Yao was stunned for a moment, and then cold sweat broke out on his palms. Boss Yao feels guilty, his emotion value increases by 10 inches. "You brought Xiao Yixian to visit me in the middle of the night. Is there something going on?" he asked, pretending to be stupid, but his body kept backing away until he was fixed in place by Ji Yufei's cold eyes. Ji Yufei raised his hand slightly, and a terrifying airflow brewed in his palm. Boss Yao has extreme fear, emotional value increased by 15. Boss Yao immediately knelt down and begged for mercy with tears. "Master, please spare my life. I locked Xiao Yixian up to protect her. Mu Shi wanted to kill her to vent his anger. I did this for her own good." Ji Yufei didn't waste any more words. He had watched the whole process in secret during this period and knew clearly that everything Boss Yao said was a lie. The next moment, a clean and sharp palm was swung out, and the terrifying airflow accurately passed through Boss Yao's chest, causing him to die before he could react, just like Mu Li before. Xiao Yixian pursed her lips and said nothing, so Ji Yufei took her to the Wolf Head Mercenary Group's base and found Mu Shi. During this period, Ji Yufei saw all the viciousness of Mu Shi and Boss Yao, so he acted without mercy and hesitation. Mu Snake produces fear emotion value increases by 10. He did not give Mu Shi a chance to quibble, but instead gave him a light palm, causing Mu Shi's eyes to freeze completely with fear. Xiao Yixian was right behind Ji Yufei, watching him quietly as he dealt with Boss Yao and Mu Shi one after another. Xiao Yixian becomes grateful, and his emotion value increases by 100. Although Ji Yufei killed people without blinking an eye, Xiao Yixian was not afraid. Because she understood that these people deserved to die, and Ji Yufei was standing up for her. She was grateful to Ji Yufei from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for Ji Yufei, her current situation would probably be very difficult. Chapter 24, Took Too Much Poison. Xiao Yixian looked back at Mu Shi's ugly face, which was unwilling to close his eyes. There was no ripple in her heart. She followed Ji Yufei and returned to her room quietly. In the darkness of night, Wan Yaojai was dead silent, and no one had noticed Boss Yao's death. Xiao Yixian lay down on her fragrant bed, revealing a faint smile, and secretly glanced at the young man sitting quietly beside the bed. This face is very reassuring, and the occasional smile makes him seem very easygoing. He was completely different from the expressionless man who had just killed Boss Yao and Mu Shi. Ji Yufei so decisively. But Xiao Yixian felt warm in her heart, knowing that someone was protecting her. This time, Ji Yufei killed so many people in Qingshan town in order to help Xiao Yixian. Moreover, he is not an unknown person. Among them, one is Boss Yao, the owner of Wan Yaojai, who usually has contacts with many people. There is another one, who is well known as the leader of the strongest mercenary group in Qingshan town, Wolf Head Mercenary Group, 2-star Do Master Mu Shi. Xiao Yixian was a kind-hearted woman, and she knew in her heart that she would no longer be able to live the peaceful life she longed for in Qingshan town. If she insisted on staying in Qingshan town, she would probably have a hard time without Ji Yufei's protection. So, when Ji Yufei turned to look at her, he asked in a leisurely tone, "Xiao Yixian, what are you going to do next?" Xiao Yixian thought for a moment and said with a smile, "As for me, I want to live in the small valley I found before for a while." Ji Yufei did not ask any further questions. Since Xiao Yixian had already made up her mind, he did not need to worry about her. Then Xiao Yixian jumped out of bed, stood by the window and blew a whistle. Ji Yufei keenly heard the sound of wings flapping violently in the distance. The sound came closer and closer, and finally slowed down and fell outside the window. A crisp knocking sound was heard, and Xiao Yixian pushed open the window. A blue eagle landed on the flat ground outside the window, looking at them with its smart eyes. Xiao Yixian climbed out of the window neatly and walked in front of the huge blue eagle. Lan Ying lowered his head to look at her, then leaned against Xiao Yixian very docilely and intimately. Xiao Yixian turned his head and stroked its smooth and soft fur, causing it to make a crisp cry. "This is my pet magical beast, Blue Eagle, a first-level flying magical beast. Noticing Ji Yufei's gaze, Xiao Yixian explained. Blue eagles are quite common in the Warcraft Mountains, but it would probably take a lot of effort for Xiao Yixian to tame a blue eagle. Xiao Yixian stood there hesitantly for a moment, then turned to look at Ji Yufei and asked hesitantly, Brother Ji Yufei, can you accompany me there? Xiao Yixian requested. It wasn't that she was afraid of danger, but her heart was filled with an inexplicable reluctance, which made her make the request in a rush. Xiao Yixian has anticipation emotion. Emotion value increases by 100. Ji Yufei pretended to think for a long time, and under Xiao Yixian's expectant gaze, he slowly agreed and nodded slightly. Xiao Yixian becomes happy, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian smiled faintly and climbed onto the broad back of Blue Eagle first. Afterwards, Ji Yufei no longer flew by himself, although he had the ability to fly. Next, Ji Yufei took a step behind Xiao Yixian and came to the back of the Blue Eagle. After making sure they were all seated firmly, the Blue Eagle flapped its wings and slowly flew up into the sky. It was quite interesting to experience being in the sky. No matter how calm Xiao Yixian was, she was just a girl. She was very excited and leaned over to look at the distant ground. Brother Ji Yufei, that's my favorite shop. I know. Just be careful. Although there was a wide space on Blue Eagle's back, Ji Yufei was afraid that Xiao Yixian would move too much and accidentally fall off, so he sat very close to her. The moment Xiao Yixian turned his head, his lips brushed Ji Yufei's cheek. She shuddered all over and realized what she had just done, her face instantly turning red. Such an action also made Ji Yufei feel strange and indescribable for a moment, and both of them were silent. Xiao Yixian becomes shy, and his emotion value increases by 100. After that, Xiao Yixian became much more obedient. Not long after, the Blue Eagle flew over the edge of the Warcraft Mountains and arrived at a basin. This basin is where the Wanyaojai herb picking team hired a group of mercenaries to pick medicinal herbs last time. However, the place where Blue Eagle went was the very deepest part of the basin. That place was shrouded in fog all year round. It was far away, so Ji Yufei could only vaguely see the outline. Deep in the basin, the Blue Eagle slowly descended, and the small valley was filled with rich energy. Ji Yufei was somewhat surprised. The energy is dense, and although not as strong as the Ji domain, it is much stronger than outside. Xiao Yixian becomes proud, and his emotion value increases by 100. How is it? Brother Ji Yufei, is this place good? The small valley here is completely isolated from the outside world, and the sky is covered with thick fog, making it extremely hidden. If I hadn't accidentally broken in, I would probably never have discovered this strange place. Looking at Ji Yufei's surprised expression, Xiao Yixian smiled slightly smugly. It's really good. Ji Yufei nodded. Next, Xiao Yixian took Ji Yufei to a thatched hut. This was where she stayed temporarily when she came here before. Ji Yufei didn't mind and happily stayed there. Coming to this relaxing and energetic place, Ji Yufei's mind relaxed a little, and he and Xiao Yixian enjoyed that unique quiet time for a while. There is no one in this small valley, only creatures of nature. However, early the next morning, Ji Yufei discovered that Xiao Yixian had not come out for a long time. He couldn't help feeling a little worried, so he knocked on the door of the thatched hut. When no one responded, he pushed it open. There was smoke inside. Ji Yufei squinted his eyes and saw a large amount of poisonous gas coming out. Ji Yufei couldn't help but sigh and shook his head helplessly. It seems that she has chosen this path after all. This poisonous gas is deadly to others, but it has no effect on Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei waved his sleeves lightly and walked straight in. The smoke in the room gradually dissipated, and Xiao Yixian was seen on the bed with his eyes tightly closed, looking quite painful and his brows furrowed. Her originally rosy face now glowed with a strange rainbow color. After Ji Yufei briefly checked Xiao Yixian's condition, he realized that her life was not in any danger. It's just that her cultivation base is too low now, and she took too much poison at once, so this silly missy couldn't digest it. It seems that I have to watch over you for a while. Ji Yufei was meditating nearby, quietly guarding Xiao Yixian, waiting for her to wake up naturally. Although he could forcefully wake Xiao Yixian up, he was afraid that doing so would cause harm to her body. Although Xiao Yixian's life was not in danger this time, Ji Yufei had been keeping an eye on her condition, fearing that other accidents might occur. Chapter 25. Xun'er's fury. Qingshan Town. The young man carrying a huge black ruler walked curiously in the busy street, looking around. He still had many scars on his body. Although they had healed, there were still faint scars. An inconspicuous black storage ring was worn on the finger of his right hand. The young man was Xiao Yan. He had finally arrived at the town closest to the Warcraft Mountains. Xiao Yan walked around the market, stopped here and there, bought some things he needed, and also inquired about some information intentionally or unintentionally. This time, Xiao Yan originally left home and planned to enter the Warcraft mountain range for training as soon as he arrived in Qingshan Town. However, because the ancient demon sent people to attack Xiao Yan before, Yao Lao's soul fell asleep in order to save him, and Xiao Yan was seriously injured. Although his injuries have almost healed, Xiao Yan is not sure if he can go into the mountains alone. Therefore, he planned to join the mercenary team and enter the Warcraft mountains together to provide an extra layer of protection for his own safety. While inquiring for information from these people on the street, he also heard about many major events that had happened in Qingshan Town recently. Xiao Yan had heard of the fame of the Wolf Head mercenary group in Qingshan Town early in the morning. When Xiao Yan heard the man's red face talking about his admiration for the team leader Mu Shi, he also felt a desire for power when he heard about Mu Shi's two-star Do Master identity. But the well-informed shop owner here pulled him over mysteriously and whispered, "The Wolf Head mercenary group, the strongest mercenary group with a Do Master, has been completely annihilated." Xiao Yan's pupils shrank sharply. He just happened to hear the news and sighed that life is unpredictable. But what the shop owner said next shocked him even more. It is said that they were killed by a mysterious young alchemist who looked only 16 years old. He wiped out the entire mercenary group by himself. After listening to this, Xiao Yan walked out of the store, still looking a little dazed. He is so powerful, even Nalan Yanren, the so-called young master of Yunlin sect, cannot compare to him. Now Xiao Yan is just an ordinary Do fighter cultivator, so for this kind of thing, he just sighed and didn't have any other thoughts in his mind. The reason why he chose to come to the Warcraft mountain range this time was because before Yao Lao consumed his spiritual strength and fell into a deep sleep, he wanted him to come here to gain experience for a year. Xiao Yan's plan is to gain experience while searching for elixir, who can restore Yao Lao's soul. The damage to Yao Lao's soul this time must have been quite serious. Xiao Yan called him countless times in his heart along the way, but received no response. Although he was worried, he had no choice but to take things one step at a time. At noon of the next day, Xiao Yan finally selected a mercenary team and went into the mountains together. 2 days after Xiao Yan entered the mountains, Qingshan Town also welcomed 2 other distinguished guests. A pretty girl with long flowing hair was walking on the street. She would stop from time to time, look at a commodity with shining eyes, and pull the sleeve of the elder next to her to ask him to pay. Ling Ying naturally sighed and bought it for the lady reluctantly. Many shop owners and mercenaries stared at these 2 very wealthy strangers intentionally or unintentionally, with their eyes scanning them. In fact, she was trying to catch the big fish she wanted through such high-profile behavior. If Brother Xiao Yan was here, he should have known about her arrival and come to look for her. Why has he been missing for so long? Seeing that this method didn't work, Xun'er had to go and find out in person whether a young man carrying a huge black ruler had been to Qingshan Town in the past few days. Xun'er inquired for a long time, until the sun set, dusk was thick, and night had already arrived. She finally got some clues. "I got the news, but Xiao Yan's brother had passed away long ago." Xun'er returned to his residence, holding his chin and sighing. "It seems we are late. Brother Xiao Yan has already entered the Monster Mountain range." Ling Ying nodded without saying anything, because he knew Xun'er would have his own ideas. As expected, Xun'er looked at the distant mountains outside the window and thought for a moment, then clapped his hands and said to Ling Ying excitedly, "How about I go directly into the Monster Mountain range to find Brother Xiao Yan?" Although the outer area of the Monster Mountain range poses no threat to Xun'er, no one has yet fully explored what kind of monsters are hiding in the inner area. In order to ensure Xun'er's safety, Ling Ying didn't want to persuade her anymore and just planned to follow quietly. Next, Xun'er also entered the Warcraft Mountains, following Xiao Yan's footsteps. Fortunately, she had a treasure to find the trace, but it was still very difficult to find a person in the vast Monster Mountain range. The other side. Although Xiao Yan chose a team to go into the mountains together, he quietly left the mercenary team shortly after entering the mountains and chose to train alone. After all, these mercenaries saw that Xiao Yan was young, so they would protect him when they encountered monsters, and Xiao Yan was not able to hone himself well. So, he gritted his teeth and chose to take the risk and explore the Warcraft Mountains alone. Because Xiao Yan separated from the team and left his tracks alone, it was more hidden and difficult to find. Therefore, although Xun'er had Ling Ying's help, he was unable to find Xiao Yan in a short time. Xun'er was very patient and followed Ling Ying all the way to the Warcraft Mountains. Suddenly, a voice interrupted her steps. "Miss, I seem to smell something familiar here, something is not right." Suddenly, Ling Ying spoke with a little surprise, looking quite unexpected. Xun'er stopped and looked back at him with a serious expression. She is aware of Ling Ying's ability, and if Ling Ying says there is a problem, then there really is a problem. As a bodyguard, Ling Ying is best at concealment and spying. However, the aura that he thought was very familiar and belonged to Ji Yufei was very faint, and Ling Ying could not tell what it was. "All I know is that this aura is likely to belong to someone from the Ji Yu clan." Xun'er took a few steps closer and Ling Ying hesitated for a moment. "I can't tell who this aura belongs to, but there is no doubt that it came from a member of the Ji Yu clan, and its strength is unknown. Ji Yufei is good at concealing his aura. He left this aura along the way several days ago." It was extremely amazing that Ling Ying was able to discover it. Although Ling Ying was very powerful, he had no way of determining the owner of this aura. Xun'er's face froze after hearing Ling Ying's words. Ling Ying's discovery made Xun'er panic and filled him with anger. Because of the previous incident with the ancient monster, even though this judgment was groundless, Xun'er was still worried that this time someone from the Ji Yu clan was going to kill Xiao Yan's brother. Therefore, Xun'er was more eager to find Xiao Yan and confirm his safety. Brother Xiao Yan's strength is not that strong. Facing the killers sent by the Ji Yu clan, will a mysterious person rescue him this time? If not, what should Brother Xiao Yan do? Chapter 26 Yun arrives. In the Warcraft Mountains, Ji Yufei quietly waited for Xiao Yixian to wake up, and this wait lasted for 3 whole days. During this period, Xiao Yixian's aura fluctuated, but fortunately nothing went wrong and it eventually stabilized. Ji Yufei was not in a hurry. After all, this small valley was rich in energy. Although it was a drop in the bucket for him, it was better than nothing. The only bed was left for the motionless Xiao Yixian, so he had no choice but to sit on the floor and meditate. On the 4th day, Xiao Yixian finally woke up. The moment Ji Yufei sensed Xiao Yixian waking up, he opened his eyes and met Xiao Yixian's gaze. Xiao Yixian is moved, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian saw Ji Yufei beside her and realized that Ji Yufei had been protecting her these days. A warm feeling suddenly surged in her heart and she smiled. But soon, Xiao Yixian seemed to remember something. His eyes became evasive, he lowered his head, and didn't dare to look at Ji Yufei again. Xiao Yixian has inferiority complex, emotional value increased by 100, Brother Ji Yufei, these past few days. Thank you for taking care of me. I just had a little accident when I was preparing the medicine a few days ago. Xiao Yixian bit his lower lip and said in a hoarse voice. Her fingers were tightly grasping the hem of her skirt, her purple eyes filled with strange emotions. She was afraid that Ji Yufei would discover her shameful secret. If Brother Ji Yufei really found out, would he dislike her and be afraid of her? She is like a disaster. Ji Yufei saw that the girl, who was originally smiling, suddenly became cautious and frowned unconsciously. Of course he noticed Xiao Yixian's mood change and shook his head helplessly. Who does Xiao Yixian think he is? How could he despise him? I know all about your physique. It's a poisonous body, isn't it? Although Ji Yufei asked in a questioning tone, his expression was very calm. Xiao Yixian becomes frightened, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian's eyes widened as she watched Ji Yufei casually point at the 7-colored poison sutra that she had casually placed beside her. Xiao Yixian's brain was buzzing, and he didn't dare to look at Ji Yufei's reaction. This kind of physique would only end up harming everyone around him, and even she was disgusted by it. However, the cultivation of the evil poison body is very fast and can give her strength. Brother Ji Yufei, would you dislike someone like me? Are you still willing to be my friend? Xiao Yixian said in a low voice with a trembling voice. Ji Yufei laughed and shook his head. Silly Missy, of course I won't, and of course I am willing to be your friend. No matter what your physique is, in my heart, you are still, and only that kind and gentle Xiao Yixian. You're always just yourself. Ji Yufei paused and continued, besides, based on the current realm, your poison poses no threat to me at all. Have you forgotten my strength? Or do you simply not believe that I am immune to your poison? Unless Xiao Yixian already has a Dou ancestor cultivation base that rivals his, her poison would not pose any threat to Ji Yufei. Of course Xiao Yixian shook his head violently and explained anxiously and hurriedly, fearing that Ji Yufei would misunderstand. Xiao Yixian is moved, and his emotion value increases by 100. However, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, and a warm current surged in her heart again. Although the knot in his heart was untied by Ji Yufei's sincere words, Xiao Yixian instinctively avoided getting close to Ji Yufei because he knew that he was poisoned. Xiao Yixian becomes worried, and his emotion value increases by 100. The seven-colored poison scripture's record of the evil poison body was shocking. Xiao Yixian didn't know how powerful Ji Yufei was, she was just worried that her poison would hurt him. The evil poison body is a strange poison body that can quickly increase its strength by swallowing poison. To identify the evil poison body, there is a thin seven-colored hidden line in the lower abdomen. The seven-colored line will grow with the concentration of poison contained in the body. When the seven-colored line extends to the heart, it is the strongest moment of the evil poison body. At the same time, it will also be bitten by all kinds of poisons. Below this line of small print, there is a very detailed list of what kind of damage the evil poison body can cause. Since Xiao Yixian has chosen to lift the seal, there is no turning back. Now her evil poison body is only in the initial stage, so when she is awake, it is okay for Ji Yufei to have physical contact with her, but once she falls into a coma, or when the poison body becomes more mature in the future, then it will really be, whatever he touches will die. However, Xiao Yixian used a smile to cover up the worry in her heart. She thought she had disguised herself well, but those emotions were faithfully broadcast by the system. Xiao Yixian becomes worried, and his emotion value increases by 100. Ji Yufei's eyes flashed, but he didn't say much, just acted as usual. Next, the two continued to live in this small valley for several days. Life in the small valley is really leisurely and peaceful, and Ji Yufei also likes this kind of life somewhat. However, he also understood that it was impossible to continue living such a comfortable life without working hard to become stronger. At this time, on the other side of the Warcraft Mountains, Xun'er is still looking for Xiao Yan, but Xiao Yan's itinerary is disorganized, and even if she has the help of treasures, there is no trace of her. Xun'er and Xiao Yan were quite far apart, so she gradually went deeper into the Warcraft Mountains to search. Xun'er went deeper and deeper, and at this moment, Ling Ying, who had been silent like a shadow, suddenly spoke. Miss, there seems to be a 6th-level magical beast appearing not far away. Xun'er thought for a moment and murmured in his heart, it seems that I have found the wrong direction. With Brother Xiao Yan's current strength, there is no way to go deep into such a dangerous place. He should still be near the periphery. The 6th-level monster is not a behemoth that Xiao Yan can challenge now, so he will definitely not move forward. Xun'er planned to go back and continue looking for Xiao Yan in the marginal area. She looked a little anxious. After so long, she still didn't know whether Brother Xiao Yan was safe, and what the purpose of the people from Jiyu clan was. At the same time, Ji Yufei also sensed the energy fluctuations in the distance. He thought about it, and judging from the violent energy fluctuations, it seemed that a level 6 magical beast had been enraged. The 6th-level monster has a very strong sense of territory. At this moment, someone or a monster must have invaded its territory or even offended it. Ji Yufei narrowed his eyes. At this time, in the Warcraft Mountains, could it be that amethyst-winged Lion King is fighting Yun Yun? He vaguely sensed the source of the demon beast's aura. Ji Yufei was a time traveler and was familiar with the plot of the original novel. Just by sensing the breath of the monster, he guessed the real answer. Chapter 27. Want to be a hero and save the beauty. Originally, Ji Yufei had no intention of getting involved in this mess. Now that Xiao Yixian has woken up, he should stay with her for a few more days to take care of her. And by the way, think about how to solve the hidden danger of the evil poison body. However, Ji Yufei changed his mind and thought that as Yun is an important character in the original novel, her luck must be good. Even, not to mention Yun, even the amethyst-winged Lion King that was fighting against Yun had luck far beyond that of ordinary monsters. Therefore, Ji Yufei decided to go over there and take a look without much hesitation. However, he was worried that his sudden disappearance would cause Xiao Yixian to worry, so he simply explained before leaving, "Xiao Yixian, I have to leave for a while, take care of yourself." Xiao Yixian feels reluctant to leave, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian felt a little reluctant, but he could only nod and agree obediently. Above the blue sky, violent energy fluctuations constantly created sounds like muffled thunder. Ji Yufei's eyes were fixed on the distant sky, and he rushed towards that direction while concealing his breath. There, the colors of blue and red almost filled half of the sky. Even the lazy white clouds were rendered into colors of light. A thunderous roar rang in his ears again, and Ji Yufei saw that the purple light from the amethyst-winged Lion King enveloped the world. After brewing for a while, the purple light suddenly contracted. In just a blink of an eye, the purple light in the sky was compressed into a dark purple light column only about half a foot wide. The deep purple beam of light in the sky flashed out like lightning. The speed of the light beam was extremely terrifying, almost like a flash. In just 2 jumps, it appeared in front of the petite figure in the sky. With Ji Yufei's eyesight, he could see the outline of the petite figure from a long distance. The woman in the sky, with a plain dress wrapped around her plump body, held a strange-looking long sword emitting green light in her hand. Her black hair was tied into a noble phoenix hair accessory. Her beautiful face seemed calm and serene. However, at this moment, because amethyst-winged Lion King began to perform his innate sealing technique, the indifference on her face finally disappeared. Obviously, this woman is Yun who fought against amethyst-winged Lion King in the original novel. Amethyst Seal. As the purple light flashed in the sky, the amethyst-winged Lion King's low roar continued to echo in the mountains. The purple crystal seal came into contact with the wind-swept blade in front of Yun for a moment, then broke it apart. Ji Yufei had just approached when this massive battle was already coming to an end. The purple beam of light pierced through the dozens of wind shields set up in front of Yun with a devastating force, and finally shot into her body. Then, amethyst-winged Lion King quickly flashed, and slapped Yun with its giant palm. The long sword in her hand trembled slightly, and a thin ray of light suddenly flew out, actually cutting off half of the sharp horn of amethyst-winged Lion King. Roar! Damn it! Feeling the pain, the amethyst-winged Lion King let out a violent lion roar. Its palms and claws, filled with unparalleled ferocious energy, struck Yun's chest heavily. With a somewhat harsh metallic creaking sound, Yun, who was hit hard, spat out a small mouthful of blood and his cheeks turned a little pale. She used up her last bit of strength, flashed continuously, and soon disappeared from the Lion King's sight. However, at this time, she was exhausted and actually fainted. Call out, coincidentally, after she fell unconscious, she actually fell towards Ji Yufei. This, Ji Yufei was surprised for a moment, then somehow reached out and caught Yun, who was covered in blood. Then he hugged Yun to cover up the aura emanating from both of them. Young men, find her for me. You must find that human woman. In the sky, the amethyst-winged Lion King discovered that Yun's breath had disappeared and roared in anger. It sent out its low-level monsters to search for the place where Yun escaped. On Ji Yufei's side, he had already brought Yun to the nearest cave. In the cave, there was a stone platform made of bluestone. Yun was seriously injured. Ji Yufei carefully put her down and looked closely at the woman who dared to challenge the amethyst-winged Lion King. Ji Yufei looked at her carefully, and a feeling of amazement naturally welled up in his heart. It seems not an exaggeration to describe her with words that symbolize beauty such as picturesque eyebrows and icy skin and jade-like bones. She has a perfect face with perfect bones and skin, delicate skin, as white as snow, and black hair tied neatly behind her head. Moreover, what amazed Ji Yufei the most was the grace and elegance that she possessed. His eyes swept across that delicate face, and Ji Yufei slowly moved his gaze downwards, his brows slightly furrowed. There were 5 horrific claw marks on her chest, below her jade neck, and the blood had stained her clothes blood red. He's injured so badly. The next moment, Ji Yufei took out an alchemy pill from the storage ring and fed it into Yun's mouth. Ji Yufei's alchemy pill is a Tier 6 healing alchemy pill, and its effect is very significant. Yun's seemingly terrible injuries were quickly stabilized. Although the alchemy pill is good, it can be painful while the body is repairing itself. When the drug took effect, Yun frowned slightly, and a hint of pain was faintly visible on her cheek. Although this look was somewhat inconsistent with her temperament, it was quite charming. It seems that the alchemy pill I made myself is quite effective. Ji Yufei also breathed a sigh of relief as he watched Yun's expression gradually relax. However, after a while, Yun, who had her eyes closed, suddenly opened them. There was a hint of coldness in her beautiful eyes as she stared at Ji Yufei. Her expression was completely different from the weakness she had shown when she was in pain just now. Yun becomes alert, emotional value increases by 100, who are you? Looking at the strange boy standing in front of him, Yun spoke with some confusion. When Ji Yufei carried her into the cave, Yun seemed to wake up for a moment and took a vague look at Ji Yufei's face, but she completely forgot about it afterwards. Faced with the strange man who appeared in the Warcraft Mountains, Yun was subconsciously a little alert. Just now, you were injured in the battle with the Amethyst-Winged Lion King. However, after I fed you the healing alchemy pill, you are now fine. Although the blood on your body looks scary, the bleeding of the wounds has stopped and they are mostly healed. Ji Yufei spoke very calmly. After hearing these words, Yun finally let down her guard. When she wanted to get up, she found that she was very weak and could not use Do Qi. She quickly realized that this was caused by the amethyst seal of the Amethyst-Winged Lion King. Ji Yufei looked at Yun with a look of annoyance on his face, cleared his throat, and continued. As for the seal, you don't have to worry, you will be able to break it yourself in 2 days. Yun becomes curious, and her emotion value increases by 100. Yun became a little curious about Ji Yufei at this moment, because Ji Yufei looked much younger than her. Not only was the strength of a boy of his age beyond her comprehension, but he even knew so little about skills like the amethyst seal. Chapter 28 Yun, young people should not be too arrogant. Are you Do ancestor? Thank you for rescuing me just now. A sincere word of thanks came out of Yun's mouth. However, Yun was still curious about how a young man like Ji Yufei could enter the dangerous area deep in the Warcraft Mountains alone to gain experience. At this time, Ji Yufei restrained his aura and did not reveal his strength. If Yun knew about this, she would probably be shocked. Yun looked Ji Yufei up and down at this moment, a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. Yun has doubtful emotions, emotion value 100 inches strange, what kind of cultivation base is he? Why can't I see anything at all? Yun held her forehead and frowned slightly. She guessed that it might be because of the seal that caused her ability to distinguish to decline. Are you a pharmacist? Yun asked when she heard that he recovered from his injuries by taking the healing alchemy pill. Ji Yufei nodded and admitted it directly. Yun became interested instantly after hearing that. He was so young, and was an alchemist. He must have a bright future. Little guy, you saved me. I can introduce you to an alchemist in the future. I believe it will be of great help to you. Yun thought of Dan Wang Ji. The two had a good relationship. I have received such a great favor from Ji Yufei today, and I will repay him someday. Introducing him to Dan King Ji can be considered as repaying this favor. You know, Dan Wang Ji is a Tier 6 alchemist, one of the best in the Jia Empire. No need. Ji Yufei smiled and shook his head. From Yun's knowledge, the highest level alchemist he knew was only the Tier 6 alchemist known as the Pill King Ji. Ji Yufei is now a Tier 7 alchemist, so why does he need Ji's guidance? If Ji knew about his ability to refine medicine, he should have asked Ji Yufei for guidance instead. Seeing Ji Yufei's refusal, Yun did not say anything else, but changed the subject. By the way, I forgot to ask your name. Ji Yufei. Hearing this, Yun was stunned. He didn't expect that the young man in front of him had the same surname as Dan King Ji. Surname Ji. Based on this surname, she guessed that Ji Yufei might have some connection with Ji. After all, both of them are alchemists, so it is unlikely that they have no relationship. What is your relationship with Dan Wang Ji? Yun asked curiously. It's not even remotely related. Ji Yufei said lightly. Okay, it seems I was overthinking it. Yun smiled slightly awkwardly. I just heard from a distance that you came here for the Lion King Purple Spirit Crystal. I guess you want to use it to refine some kind of alchemy pill. Ji Fei asked. Yes, but the Lion King was unwilling to exchange, so I had to take it by force. However, I was injured by the Lion King's life-sealing technique when I was not careful. Yun nodded. Her body still felt a little painful at this moment. Speaking of Purple Spirit Crystal, he knew about it since he was familiar with the original novel in his previous life, so he casually said, if I'm not mistaken, Purple Spirit Crystal can usually be used to refine purple crystal pills and improve the cultivation base of the Do Master realm. Is what you want to refine purple crystal pills? Good. Yun was shocked. She didn't expect Ji Fei to know so much. Yun is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 100. She was indeed going to refine the purple spirit pill for her apprentice Nalan Yanran. You are so young. What is your purpose in coming to the depths of the Monster Mountain Range? Yun finally couldn't hold back her curiosity and asked. Ji Fei did not keep anyone in suspense and directly stated the purpose of this trip. Actually, I came here this time to subdue the amethyst-winged Lion King and make him my mount. The purple spirit crystal is very important to the amethyst-winged Lion King lineage. If he is unwilling to exchange, you should not take it by force. Moreover, with your strength, you cannot defeat the Lion King. Next, Ji Fei said something that made Yun a little stunned. She couldn't believe what she heard. This young man actually said he wanted to tame the amethyst-winged Lion King as a mount. Did I hear that correctly? Yun was greatly shocked, because that was the 6th level monster amethyst-winged Lion King. Yun is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 100. Yun hid the shock in her heart very well, but Ji Fei easily discovered it through the system prompts. He smiled faintly. Haha, it's just a 6th level monster. What's the big deal? Ji Fei did not find Yun's surprise strange, but responded with a faint smile. At this time, Ji Fei habitually restrained his own aura. In addition, he had just been too lazy to avoid the pursuit of the amethyst-winged Lion King, so he had not revealed the aura of cultivation base. Yun felt that he was bragging. Why is this young man speaking in such an arrogant tone? However, Ji Fei was too lazy to continue explaining anything, and walked slowly out of the cave. Seeing Ji Fei walking out, Yun, whose injuries had recovered a little due to the healing alchemy pill, also followed him out. At this moment, outside the cave, there was chaos, and the roars of monsters were everywhere. Just now, amethyst-winged Lion King couldn't find Yun's whereabouts, and his horn that was cut in half was still in pain. His terrifying roar spread across most of the Warcraft mountain range. Many low-level monsters were frightened by his shout and wanted to hide back in their nests, but they were forced out by the Lion King and had to search around for Yun's whereabouts. In the original novel, after Xiao Yan rescued Yun, he was unable to block out Yun's aura in the cave due to his lack of strength. In the end, they had to sprinkle some powder outside the cave to cover up the smell. And because the search for those low-level monsters was not serious, they were able to take advantage of the situation and cover up the past. But Ji Fei didn't need to do all this. With his strength, he could directly block the leakage of Yun's aura. But when he came out at this moment, he did not help Yun conceal her breath. Therefore, not long after Yun came out of the cave this time, the aura on her body attracted a large number of magical beasts. Yun finally reacted and her face changed slightly. Oh no, these monsters are the Lion King's subordinates. They smelled my scent. It seems that I will implicate you. I am really sorry. Yun feels guilty, and her emotion value increases by 100 in her opinion. Ji Fei was very weak. Although she had the strength of Do Sovereign, she had not yet fully recovered and might not be able to protect Ji Fei. Obviously, at this moment, Yun still felt that Ji Fei was bragging. However, the next moment, Yun watched Ji Fei soar into the air. There was nothing behind him. Unlike Yun, who relied on Do Chi wings to fly, Ji Fei just stood in the sky with a calm expression, without using any support at all. Yun is a genius. Yun is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 100. This is Do Ancestor. Such an incredible word popped into her mind, and Yun's calm face showed a rare surprise. How could a boy who only looks 16 or 17 years old possess such strength? Even though Yun is considered a very talented person in the Jia Empire, it is an existence that many people look up to. However, Ji Yufei's extremely powerful talent far exceeded her imagination. Chapter 29 Xun'er. Why is Ji Yufei here? Is he here for Brother Xiao Yan? Lion King, are you willing to follow me? Ji Yufei stood in the sky with his eyelashes drooping. His voice was carried away by the wind, and he applied Douqi to make the sound spread far away. The terrifying and coercive words echoed throughout this dangerous area filled with monsters. Those low-level magical beasts that had originally surrounded him with their fangs and claws, after feeling the powerful aura emanating from Ji Yufei, all retreated, trembling all over and not daring to move forward, even though Ji Yufei was not deliberately targeting them. The originally ferocious eyes of every monster nearby were now filled with fear. The second-level monster Black Hawk produces fear emotion, and the emotion value increases by 0.01. Level 3 Magical Beast Ice Wolf generates fear emotion. Emotion value increases by 0.05. The fourth-level monster Black Bear has fear emotion, and the emotion value increases by 0.1. This kind of aura. Not far away, Amethyst-Winged Lion King also heard Ji Yufei's words. Although it had already felt Ji Yufei's powerful strength from his tremendous momentum. But this is its territory. It's impossible to force it to retreat before the fight even starts. Soon, the huge body of the Amethyst-Winged Lion King appeared in the sky. It lowered its head and glanced at Yun standing under Ji Yufei. A fierce light flashed in its eyes. Then, it aimed its gaze at Ji Yufei and spoke in human language. Human strongman, are you here to take my purple spirit crystal as well? When saying this, the Lion King felt a little uneasy. If Ji Yufei was standing up for Yun, then there would be a bloody battle today. Amethyst-Winged Lion King becomes anxious, and his emotion value increases by 50 inches. That's not the case. Purple spirit crystal is useless to me. Sensing some emotional changes in the Lion King, Ji Yufei chuckled and shook his head. Hearing this, the Lion King felt relieved, but was choked by Ji Yufei's next words. I came here because I think you have decent talent and are qualified to be my mount. Ji Yufei's expression was calm, but he said something that made the Lion King's expression suddenly change. Amethyst-Winged Lion King generates shock and anger, and the emotion value increases by 60 inches. What? You actually want me to be your mount? What an arrogant human! The Lion King was furious at this moment. As magical beasts, especially some high-level magical beasts, they are difficult to be tamed by humans. They are born proud and will never bow their heads to humans. Even if humans are stronger than them, they will not surrender even if it means death. For this reason, it is very rare to see living adult monsters on the market. Most monsters are killed, dismembered, and then the useful parts are taken out and sold. Those who want to buy a complete Warcraft human can only buy some Warcraft eggs or ignorant Warcraft cubs. For example, the guardian monsters of a large family must be trained from a young age so that they will not have a rebellious heart and will be loyal to the family. Don't be surprised. When you become my mount, you will understand that this is the wisest decision you have ever made in your life. Ji Yufei ignored the Amethyst-Winged Lion King's rage and smiled faintly. Then he closed his eyes and released his aura completely. As soon as that powerful pressure was released, not only did the surrounding low-level monsters kneel on the ground and tremble, but even the Lion King felt unprecedented pressure and broke out in cold sweat. Yun, under Ji Yufei's care, did not feel uncomfortable, but she could also feel the terrifying strength of Ji Yufei. Yun is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 100. Amethyst-Winged Lion King produces shock and fear emotions, and the emotion value increases by 60. The third-level monster Earth-Shatter Bear has fear emotion, and the emotion value increases by 0.01. Although Yun did not feel the pressure, his face was solemn. This is a natural reaction of the weak facing the strong. Even someone as powerful as Amethyst-Winged Lion King couldn't help but take a step back. Yun's eyes unconsciously fell on Ji Yufei's back. Who was he? The aura on Ji Yufei's body continued to spread outwards, and a steady stream of Douqi burst out. At the same time, in the Monster Mountain range, Ling Ying, who was some distance away from here, also felt this horrifying aura fluctuation. She suddenly stopped in her tracks, with a look of surprise on her face. This breath. What's wrong? Ling Ying had protected her since she was a child, but she rarely saw Ling Ying with such a shocked expression. After all, as her shadow, Ling Ying needs to remain calm enough to do her job. Ling Ying was rarely emotional at this moment, Xun'er asked in confusion. She felt a little uneasy, but she ignored it. Ling Ying was very sensitive to this aura. Although Xun'er also sensed the powerful fluctuations, her strength was far inferior to Ling Ying's and she was unable to perceive it clearly. I could only vaguely sense that it was a very powerful aura. Miss, I'm feeling it carefully. Ling Ying couldn't believe it and sensed it again. But he found that it was still almost the same as he had just guessed. He paused for a second and looked at Xun'er with a serious expression. It's Master Ji Yu Fei's aura. Ling Ying paused, then answered with certainty. There was no way his perception could be wrong. Such a powerful and familiar aura could only belong to young Master Ji Yu Fei. Ji Yu Fei. Hearing this, Xun'er was also stunned. She was very puzzled as to why Ji Yu Fei came here. What was there worth his experience in such a barren place like the Northwest Continent? The Northwest Continent is totally incomparable to the Ji Yu domain. Ji Yu Fei originally left the Ji Yu domain for the purpose of training, so it is impossible for him to give up so many rich lands and come to such a barren place. Let me ask, in the Ji Yu domain, who knows Qingshan Town, and who knows the Warcraft mountain range? Is it really such a coincidence, just an accidental meeting? Or could it be that Ji Yu Fei came here for Brother Xiaoyan? Xun'er had an incredible guess in his mind. She was very worried about Xiaoyan's safety. Xun'er was very anxious because he couldn't find Brother Xiaoyan during this period. After all, Xun'er is the one who knows Ji Yu Fei's strength best, as he is the first heaven's pride of Ji Yu clan. If Ji Yu Fei really attacked Brother Xiaoyan, I'm afraid that the mysterious strong man beside Brother Xiaoyan would not be able to resist. Xun'er bit his lower lip nervously and exchanged glances with Ling Ying. She was debating whether to go over there to check the situation. What if that fluctuation was the battle between Ji Yu Fei, Brother Xiaoyan, and that mysterious strong man? What should she do? Time is running out. Every second you delay, Brother Xiaoyan might be in more danger. Xun'er no longer hesitated. Let's go find Ji Yu Fei. Seeing this, Ling Ying simply took her and quickly rushed to the source of the Do Qi fluctuations. At this moment, Xun'er was very eager to find Ji Yu Fei. However, the reason why she was so eager to find her ex-husband was not because she missed him. Instead, she was worried that her ex-husband would hurt her old lover. Chapter 30, Conquering the Lion King. Ex-husband and ex-wife meet in a different place. Deep in the Warcraft Mountains. After Ji Yu Fei revealed his aura without reservation, the originally chaotic and arrogant low-level monsters instantly fell silent. Even the amethyst-winged Lion King paused for a moment. With his toes slightly raised, Ji Yu Fei took a few steps forward, apparently in a leisurely manner as if he was taking a stroll. However, after the sudden sound of breaking air, he instantly arrived in front of amethyst-winged Lion King. It was such a terrifying speed that even amethyst-winged Lion King couldn't react. Ji Yu Fei stood in front of him, as small as an ant, but amethyst-winged Lion King sensed an extremely dangerous smell. It was the long-lost breath of death. After he dominated this mountain range, he never felt the same terrifying threat again. Amethyst-winged Lion King has fear emotion. Emotion value increases by 50. The feeling of his accelerated heartbeat made the Lion King's scalp tingle. He roared angrily and subconsciously stretched out his huge claws to slap Ji Yu Fei. Amethyst-winged Lion King did not hold back any strength and struck with all his might, because his intuition told him that he did not need to use his full strength, as anyone who dared to underestimate Ji Yu Fei in any way would definitely die. Yun Yun's face changed color when she was frightened by the Lion King's sudden palm. Although she felt that Ji Yu Fei was powerful, compared with the huge body of the Lion King, Ji Yu Fei looked too weak. Yun Yun becomes nervous and worried, and the emotion value increases by 100. He won't be hurt if he gets hit like that. Right. However, the next moment, the huge claw, which weighed as much as 1,000 kilograms, stopped in midair as if a car had been braked suddenly, and could no longer be pressed down at all. At the same time, a loud sound of metal collision was heard in the sky. The sound was harsh, and the huge energy that erupted from the center made the low-level monsters approaching below spit out blood. Yun Yun stared without blinking. She squinted her eyes and realized that it was Ji Yu Fei who stretched out a hand. Compared with the giant claw, that hand was like an ant at the elephant's foot, but it intercepted the giant claw that was pressing down. Yun is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 100. How is this possible? Yun exclaimed. Her seal has almost been lifted, and she can already feel the energy fluctuations from the outside world. The reason for being shocked was that Yun could sense that the protagonist of the battle, Ji Yufei, had not used any Do Qi energy at all. He simply stretched out a hand and used his physical strength to block the 6th level monster's heavy attack without holding back. Moreover, this is not an ordinary 6th level monster. The moment Amethyst-Winged Lion King's attack was easily caught by Ji Yufei, he felt a sharp pain in his claws. Amethyst-Winged Lion King generates fear emotion. Emotion value increases by 50. He subconsciously retracted his claws quickly, and a hint of fear arose in his heart. Amethyst-Winged Lion King is stronger than Yun. As an intelligent monster, it is also quite knowledgeable. Naturally, it could be noticed that Ji Yufei was able to withstand this punch solely by relying on his physical strength. Moreover, Ji Yufei's face was calm, and he even looked as if he was at ease. The strongest thing about Warcraft is never Do Qi, but their strong bodies. On the contrary, most of human weaknesses are in the flesh. However, now, the positions of humans and monsters have been completely reversed, and Ji Yufei can easily block his full-strength attack without using Do Qi. Amethyst-Winged Lion King's fur exploded and his pupils constricted. How terrifying is Ji Yufei's physique? Ji Yufei shook his hands, feeling that there was no challenge at all. He still remembered that the system panel showed that his physical fitness was level 78, which was equivalent to the physical strength of a 7th-order late-stage Warcraft of Emperor-grade bloodline. The culture of World of Warcraft has reached the late stage, and each step forward is a qualitative improvement. There is already a huge gap between the 6th and 7th levels. Not to mention, there is also the added strength of Emperor-grade bloodline. If Ji Yufei gets serious, he can easily defeat Amethyst-Winged Lion King with his physical strength. It is very difficult to meet a monster that is reluctant to agree with him. Ji Yufei plans to persuade it again, but his patience is running out. Believe me, becoming my mount will be the wisest decision of your life. From now on, it will be possible to break through to the 7th level, or even the 8th level. At least it's better than you staying in this monster mountain range. Amethyst-Winged Lion King becomes hesitant. Emotion value increases by 50 after intimidating the Amethyst-Winged Lion King with his strength. Ji Yufei, knowing the principle of giving a slap and a date, put forward some conditions. Moreover, Ji Yufei smiled faintly, and seeing that Amethyst-Winged Lion King was still hesitating, he spoke again. After that, I will give you a shape-transforming pill. The combination of kindness and force was definitely effective, and coupled with the potential shown by Ji Yufei, the Lion King was finally shaken. Amethyst-Winged Lion King becomes hesitant. Emotion value increases by 50. It doesn't seem shameful to follow such a future peerless strong man, even if just as a mount. Moreover, Ji Yufei has already given him enough face. He had said all he wanted to say. If the Amethyst-Winged Lion King still didn't agree, it might be in danger of being killed today. Moreover, its children in the cave will also be in danger. Meet the master. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, the proud Amethyst-Winged Lion King finally chose to lower his head and surrender to Ji Yufei. Very good. Seeing this, Ji Yufei smiled and nodded. Below, Yun witnessed this scene with her own eyes. Yun is surprised, and the emotion value increases by 100. She was so surprised that she was speechless. Ji Yufei is so powerful that he refreshes her cognition time and time again, and has even far exceeded her imagination. Yun couldn't help but doubt, does such a monster really exist? In the sky, Ji Yufei was still explaining Amethyst-Winged Lion King. In that case, you should prepare yourself and then follow me to leave the monster mountain range. As for your child, you can take care of him yourself. Then he landed on the ground and came to Yun's side. Yun becomes distressed. Emotional value increases by 100. Yun felt a little embarrassed, which was unusual for her. She actually thought that such a strong man was just bragging. At this moment, Yun's attitude towards Ji Yufei has quietly changed. She no longer regarded him as a young boy as she did just now. This was the natural reaction of the weak to the strong. At the same time, Yun felt ridiculous when she thought that she had just told Ji Yufei that she would help him recommend Ji Yuhe. Ji Yufei smiled slightly and was about to tease this icy beauty who rarely showed her emotions. Suddenly, his brows slightly raised and he looked to the east. Why is she here? Yun looked in the direction of his gaze, confused, and remained silent. Ji Yufei frowned, feeling a little annoyed. What on earth were these two people trying to do by coming to disturb him? Although Xun'er and Ling Ying did not deliberately reveal their aura, Ji Yufei's powerful spiritual strength enabled him to detect that the two of them were approaching this side. Chapter 31 Xun'er is jealous. Yun didn't understand why Ji Yufei frowned. At this moment, she seemed very quiet and didn't say anything to disturb Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei also rubbed his eyebrows, looking a little impatient. He didn't want to move first and appear guilty, so he stayed where he was, quietly waiting for the two men to come over. A moment later, two black spots appeared from the distant sky and flew towards us rapidly. As the distance got closer, the two black dots gradually became clearer, and they were Xun'er and Ling Ying. It's really him. Xun'er becomes surprised. Emotion value increases by 100. Xun'er had been looking anxiously, and at this moment he finally saw Ji Yufei. Although I was mentally prepared, I was still a little surprised when I saw it with my own eyes. Moreover, the next moment, she saw a beautiful woman standing next to Ji Yufei. Although the woman was wearing a plain robe, her proud figure could not be concealed. She was tall, had cold eyes, a pretty face, and long black hair that flowed down her face. She looked elegant and noble. At first glance, she actually seemed to be a good match for Ji Yufei. Who is this woman? Xun'er becomes jealous. Emotion value increases by 100. Xun'er didn't know why, but he felt an inexplicable jealousy rising in his heart. She shook her head, thinking that she must be missing brother Xiaoyan. What does Ji Yufei do to her? Soon, Xun'er and Ling Ying landed in front of Ji Yufei. As soon as Xun'er came up, he started questioning Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei, why are you here? Her tone sounded a little anxious. If Ji Yufei didn't know that she was only concerned about her brother Xiaoyan, he would have really thought that his ex-wife was worried about his safety. I should be the one asking you this. Ji Yufei looked impatient and responded in a very cold tone. I came out to gain experience, what about you? Why are you following me? What on earth was she up to that she actually followed him all the way to the Monster Mountains? Xun'er listened to his tone, bit her lower lip, shook her head and denied, I'm not following you. Of course Ji Yufei didn't believe it. If they weren't tracking, how could it be such a coincidence that both of them were training in the Warcraft Mountains? Seeing Ji Yufei raised the corners of his lips sarcastically with a mocking look in his eyes, Xun'er became a little angry. Xun'er becomes angry. Emotion value increases by 100. The Northwest continent is a notoriously barren place. How could it be worthy of a monster like you to train? It's better to go anywhere than to train here, Xun'er said, and her guess in her heart became more certain. Her beautiful eyes flickered, and she asked again, do you have other purposes? Xun'er becomes suspicious. Emotion value increases by 100. Other purposes. Hearing Xun'er's questioning tone again and again, without any politeness, even a person with a good temper would get angry. Ji Yufei's good mood after conquering Amethyst-Winged Lion King was instantly destroyed by Xun'er. He said angrily, my business, does it have anything to do with you? Obviously Xun'er betrayed me first, but now she keeps chasing me and questioning me. What on earth is going on? There should be a limit to being willful and ignorant. Ji Yufei closed his eyes, then simply turned his head away and ignored Xun'er. Xun'er becomes anxious. Emotional value increases by 200. Seeing that Ji Yufei didn't reply, Xun'er felt a little uneasy. Could it be that brother Xiaoyan has already fallen into his hands? But he shouldn't be that kind of person. I don't know what Xun'er was thinking about, but his words suddenly took on a pleading tone. Ji Yufei, I don't care what you think in your heart. I don't doubt you. I just beg you. I know that you may be somewhat resentful towards brother Xiaoyan because of me. Xun'er's voice paused, choking a little. I beg you, don't hurt brother Xiaoyan, don't deal with him, okay? Xun'er becomes pleading. Emotion value increases by 200. Yun is surprised, and the emotion value increases by 100 on the side. Yun never said a word to disturb the two of them, but she was deeply shocked when she heard their conversation. Xiaoyan. Yun still remembers the name Xiaoyan. This person was engaged to her only disciple, Nalan Yanran. Moreover, Yanran broke off the engagement. The two made a 3-year agreement. This time, Yun came to the world of Warcraft Mountains because she learned that Xiaoyan's talent had been restored and her strength had improved rapidly. She was worried that Yanren would lose, so she came here to get the purple spirit crystal to make pills. However, Xiaoyan is clearly a young man of ordinary background and low cultural base. How is it related to Ji Yufei, Xun'er, a proud child of heaven? Moreover, judging from the situation, it seems that the situation is very complicated. Xun'er and Ji Yufei both have strange attitudes, and I'm afraid it has a lot to do with Xiaoyan. Yun herself has no prejudice against Xiaoyan, and she never looks at anyone with tinted glasses. But today's chaotic situation made her feel a little bad. Yun frowned, and subconsciously felt a little more displeased with Xiaoyan. Hurt Xiaoyan. Ji Yufei frowned again, unable to believe what he had heard, and anger suddenly rose in his heart. Unexpectedly, this woman Xun'er actually thought of him in this way. Did Xiaoyan get hurt? Xiaoyan is also injured. Xun'er was too arrogant. He clearly didn't care, but Xun'er always felt that he was resentful towards her and Xiaoyan. It has even reached the point where they traveled thousands of miles to the northwest continent monster mountains under the pretext of training, just to kill Xiaoyan as soon as possible. Ji Yufei laughed in anger, his expression full of disdain. He is not worthy of me thinking about him like this. Looking at Xun'er, Ji Yufei's eyes were filled with disgust. You are not worthy. Xun'er feels lost, and his emotion value increases by 100 after saying this. Ji Yufei felt upset, so he turned around and said softly to Yun, who was a little dazed, your injury is not fully healed yet, you should rest more. Yun nodded, and before she could figure out the complicated relationship between them, she walked into the cave with Ji Yufei. Only Xun'er and Ling Ying were left outside. Xun'er briefly put brother Xiaoyan behind his mind, looked at the backs of Ji Yufei and Yun standing side by side, and murmured, who is this woman, what is the relationship between brother Ji Yufei and her? Xun'er was very angry, but also a little disappointed. After all, Ji Yufei is her ex-husband, and they have only been divorced for a short time. How could Ji Yufei be so close to another woman? Moreover, Yun's appearance and posture were both excellent, and her noble temperament made Xun'er feel a little uneasy. She thought she didn't take Ji Yufei's words just now to heart, but the system's faithful prompts still exposed her thoughts. Faced with Ji Yufei's disgust, Xun'er felt a little hurt. How come all the kindness they had in the past turned into sharp swords that he used to stab her with? She was a little distraught and took a deep look at the cave. The aura at the entrance of the cave was blocked by Ji Yufei, so Xun'er couldn't see inside, and he couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. What will happen to Ji Yufei and that woman in there? If you are interested, you can add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 32 Yun's subtle reaction. Xun'er was sulking because Ji Yufei refused to answer her questions directly and abandoned her and took the woman into the cave. Ling Ying, who had never spoken a word, watched this farce and hesitated. Miss, since Master Ji Yufei said so, there is no way he would go after Xiaoyan. Master Ji Yufei is very prestigious among the younger generation in the clan. Although I don't know much about him, I do know that he not only relies on his absolute strength to win the support of others, but also relies on his personal charm. At least with my own eyes, I can't see any concealment or lies from him. Looking at the angry Xun'er, Ling Ying couldn't help but speak. His voice showed that he trusted Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei is a man who values his word very much. Since he said that he did not deal with Xiaoyan, then it means he really did not. On the one hand, Ji Yufei is a genius that Ling Ying needs to look up to, and his status is extremely noble. Ling Ying has genuine respect for Ji Yufei. When Ling Ying first learned that Ji Yufei was going to marry Xun'er, she remained silent. After all, he had watched Xun'er grow up, so naturally he had a few more filters and felt that no man in the world was worthy of Miss Xun'er. But after observing for a while, Ling Ying accepted his identity as Xun'er's husband from the bottom of her heart. Before, Xun'er asked Ling Ying to contact Xiaoyan, but Ling Ying didn't want to. It is obvious that Xiaoyan is inferior to Ji Yufei in every way. Xiaoyan and Ji Yufei, Ling Ying obviously prefers the combination of Xun'er and Ji Yufei. The combination of two gifted people must be more perfect. Although Xiaoyan has a good personality and is calm, his talent is far inferior to Ji Yufei. However, Ling Ying couldn't stand Xun'er's stubbornness. In addition, as he and Xun'er had been together for many years, He had to side with Xun'er and help Xun'er convey the information. Master Ling, of course I understand the truth. Since Ji Yufei said that he would not attack Brother Xiaoyan, then it is a foregone conclusion. There is absolutely no possibility. Just now I was angry and too reckless, so I questioned him without thinking. Xun'er lowered his head and spoke in a low voice. Although she has always been unyielding, she now feels a little guilty. Last time, Xun'er was so angry because Ji Yuyao sent people to deal with Xiaoyan that he misunderstood Ji Yufei without knowing right from wrong. She thought she would not make the same mistake again, but she didn't expect that she would. Just now, Xun'er felt more and more uncomfortable when he saw Ji Yufei and Yunyun walking together very pleasantly and stepping into the cave side by side. She bit her lower lip and suddenly said, "No, I want to go in and take a look. What if that woman has bad intentions? They don't want anything to happen in there." Ling Ying had no choice but to hold her forehead with her hand and responded. But he didn't intend to go in and just stood guard outside. Xun'er hesitated for a moment and planned to enter the cave. Just as she was about to enter the cave, her expression changed and a sound of breaking wind was heard in the sky. "Humans, you are not allowed to enter the cave without the master's permission. Stand back." The amethyst-winged Lion King hovered in the sky, its massive silhouette covering the entire sky. It lowered its head and warned Xun'er and Ling Ying very seriously. The broken horn on top of his head was still aching, but Ji Yufei had already healed the pain. On this day, Amethyst-winged Lion King was in a state of tension and never relaxed. "I met too many strong people today." Not only did it encounter Do Sovereign Yunyun who came to ask for the purple spirit crystal and cut off half of its horn, but also a Do ancestor strongman like Ji Yufei. Moreover, among the people who came to find Ji Yufei later, there was actually someone at the Do Sovereign peak level. Ling Ying seems to have no sense of existence. He exists as a shadow and is used to hiding himself. But Amethyst-winged Lion King is also quite afraid of Ling Ying. It stared at Ling Ying, estimating his strength in its mind. When it gave the warning, its eyes were also fixed on Ling Ying vigilantly. However, Amethyst-winged Lion King understood that even if he was not the opponent, he had to come up and stop them, so as to show his loyalty to Ji Yufei. Besides, these two people obviously know the master and should not attack him. Xun'er looked up at the Amethyst-winged Lion King's whispered warning, showing no fear at all. She shouted in a slightly sharp voice, "Get out of the way." Amethyst-winged Lion King paused, anger rising in his heart. Ling Ying doesn't want to offend her, but that doesn't mean the arrogant little missy can act recklessly. Amethyst-winged Lion King's voice was silent for a moment, and then a subtle wave spread in the air. Ling Ying keenly sensed the gathering of Doqi and frowned slightly. He took a few steps forward and stood in front of Xun'er, blocking the Amethyst-winged Lion King's gloomy sight. Ling Ying turned around and persuaded Xun'er, "Miss, Master Ji Yufei may be angry now, so we should not go in for the time being. It won't be too late to explain after Master Ji Yufei calms down. If you go now, you'll run into his trap and I'm afraid you won't be able to calm him down." Under Ling Ying's persuasion, Xun'er hesitated for a moment and finally calmed down. She glanced coldly at the entrance of the cave and waited outside. The faintly condensed Doqi finally dissipated, and Ling Ying breathed a sigh of relief. If Xun'er cannot be persuaded, I am afraid I will have to fight a hard battle with the Amethyst-winged Lion King. Even if they don't really do anything, they will inevitably get injured. On the other side, Yunyun and Ji Yufei walked into the cave side by side. Yunyun sensed the burning gaze from Xun'er behind him, but said nothing. The two continued to walk a few steps inside, and Yunyun finally couldn't help but ask, "The Xiaoyan you just mentioned, is it Xiaoyan from the Xiao family in Wudin City?" Yunyun's intuition told her that these two Xiaoyans were the same person. However, Yunyun was puzzled as to how a loser from a small city like Wudin could know these most powerful boys and girls. Ji Yufei nodded nonchalantly, hummed calmly, and said nothing else. He could sense that Xun'er and Ling Ying were still outside the cave and had not left. This made Ji Yufei feel a little unhappy. It's not that I'm jealous because Xun'er only has Xiaoyan in his heart. It's just because Ji Yufei is a normal person. Suddenly, he was wrongly accused for no reason and subjected to inexplicable speculation, so he would naturally feel unhappy. At this moment, Ji Yufei let out a long breath. Fortunately, he had separated from Xun'er now, and Xun'er no longer had much influence on him. If it had happened before, I would have been distracted for the entire day and would have been constantly doubting myself. Ji Yufei shook off the distracting thoughts in his mind. At this moment, he suddenly missed the innocent girl with purple hair and purple eyes who was waiting for him to return in the small valley. At least, when she was around, Ji Yufei never had any bad negative emotions. Chapter 33 Xun'er. What did you do in there, a man and a woman? I won't stay in the monster mountain range for long. Ji Yufei paused for a moment, then continued, since I saved you this time, it can be considered that we are destined to be together. Next, I will help you break the seal of your body. Considering that Xiao Yixian is still in that small valley, waiting for him to return alone, Ji Yufei doesn't want to stay here any longer. Yunyun becomes grateful, and his emotion value increases by 100, thank you. Hearing this, Yunyun showed a hint of gratitude in her eyes. She wisely did not ask Ji Yufei why he was in a hurry to leave. Just as Ji Yufei was about to help Yunyun, he paused again and said bluntly, to help you break the seal, I need my palm to touch your body and input Do Qi into your body. Well, I'm not that fussy. Yunyun smiled, looking unconcerned, and responded softly. Next, Ji Yufei gently placed his palm on Yunyun's slender back. His big palm was scorching hot, and his hot body temperature carried the Do Qi into Yunyun's body continuously. Yunyun's stagnant meridians were gently impacted by Do Qi and suddenly broke open. That feeling, painful yet warm all over, made Yunyun moan unconsciously. When she reacted, the tips of her ears instantly turned red. Although Yunyun is not young anymore and is a sect master, she has almost no experience with men and women and has never had such close contact with a man. Yunyun becomes shy, emotional value increases by 100. She twisted her body with some struggle, but Ji Yufei held her shoulder with one hand. Don't move, he whispered in Yunyun's ear, looking quite focused. Yunyun froze, her cheeks flushed, and her fingertips turned a shy pink. Yunyun becomes shy, emotional value increases by 100. The seal was almost broken, and Ji Yufei released his hands. Thank you, she whispered, her eyes wandering, still acting a little shy. When Ji Yufei received the emotional value reminder, he looked at her thoughtfully. The purpose of your coming here is to obtain the purple spirit crystal to refine the purple spirit pill. The purple spirit pill has the effect of increasing the cultivation base of the Do Master and the people in the Great Do Master realm. This alchemy pill has a better effect than the purple crystal pill. Ji Yufei took out an alchemy pill from the storage ring and gave it to Yunyun. This was made by him personally, and the effect is much better than the amethyst pill. Yunyun becomes grateful, and his emotion value increases by 100. Thank you so much, you helped me so much. Yunyun did not refuse. She took the alchemy pill, secretly glanced at Ji Yufei, and thanked him again. Let's go, then. After sending out the alchemy pill, Ji Yufei stood up and walked out of the cave first. Yunyun stopped where she was, staring at his back for a moment, then caught up with him. She realized what she had just done and felt a little weird. Yunyun feels reluctant to leave, and her emotion value increases by 100. Meet the master. Outside the cave, Amethyst-Winged Lion King saw Ji Yufei coming out and greeted him respectfully. Ji Yufei responded calmly, without even paying attention to Xun'er. On Xun'er's side, when he saw Ji Yufei coming out of the cave, he quickly stood up and planned to explain the misunderstanding to Ji Yufei. Suddenly, her expression froze. Yunyun, who was standing behind Ji Yufei, had a ruddy complexion, a warm look in her eyes, and her hair was a little messier than before she came in. After careful observation, Yunyun and Ji Yufei were standing very close to each other. There was an inexplicably special atmosphere between them that no one else could interfere with. Xun'er couldn't help but have some strange thoughts in his mind. Could it be that something happened between the two of them in the cave just now? Xun'er becomes sad. Emotional value increases by 100. Thinking of this, Xun'er felt inexplicably sad for some reason. So, all the explanations that she had carefully prepared for a long time were suddenly thrown out of her mind. Xun'er stepped forward, stared into Ji Yufei's eyes, and asked loudly, "What on earth did you do in there for an entire hour?" Xun'er becomes angry. Emotion value increases by 100. Ji Yufei didn't react for a moment after hearing Xun'er's words, but Yunyun knew that she had misunderstood. At the same time, this righteous questioning tone also let her know that Ji Yufei had a special relationship with the beautiful and noble girl in front of him. She ignored the emotion in her heart and tried to explain, "Miss, it's not what you think." However, before Yun could finish her words, she was interrupted by Ji Yufei. Ji Yufei looked a little impatient and said coldly, "What I did has nothing to do with you." Xun'er becomes jealous and angry, and the emotion value increases by 100. Hearing Ji Yufei's answer, Xun'er couldn't help feeling a little jealous. The next moment, the words came out without any consideration. "Ji Yufei, I didn't expect you to become like this. Take a good look at this woman. She's so much older than you. Do you really like her?" Yun's appearance is mature yet elegant, with a noble temperament and a tall figure. Compared with young boys and girls like Xun'er and Ji Yufei, she really looks like an elder sister. Yun becomes unhappy, and her mood value increases by 100. But Yun heard these careless words and was very unhappy. She wanted to explain, but was completely annoyed by Xun'er's thoughtless words. Xun'er's words at this time seemed very harsh. Yun should have ignored her attack, but she felt a strange emotion. She holds a high position in the Jia Empire. When has she ever been looked down upon like this? Not to mention, she is still a young girl. Since Xun'er suspected what happened between her and Ji Yufei, he said he was old. What could be more embarrassing for Xun'er than fighting back with his own hands? Yun becomes competitive. Emotional value increases by 100. Yun's competitive spirit was aroused, and she actually reached out and held Ji Yufei's arm. At this moment, Ji Yufei's expression was unusually stiff, like a piece of wood. He didn't know whether to pull his arm away or not, so he could only let Yun cling to him tightly. Yun smiled charmingly. "Little girl, although elder sister is a little older, she knows much more than a little girl like you. It makes sense that Ji Yufei doesn't like you." Yun looked at Xun'er provocatively, and her voice seemed to have a hook, as she spoke slowly and deliberately to anger Xun'er. She even blinked artificially and leaned towards Ji Yufei. Feeling the stiffness in Ji Yufei's arm, Yun's lips curled up even more. Normally, Yun is cold and noble, and has never taken the initiative to approach any man. She always looks high and mighty, and cannot see anything other than cultivation. If the people in Jia Empire knew about this performance, I'm afraid they would all be shocked. How could this be the noble, cool and beautiful sect master? She was clearly a demon. Chapter 34. No matter what I do, I am much better than you cheating on your wife. Yun's sudden abnormal attitude made Ji Yufei stunned for a moment. Especially since Yun was now holding his arm and her body was still leaning against him tightly. His arm seemed to touch some soft area of her body from time to time. This made Ji Yufei's usually cold face seem a little cracked. Moreover, this kind of ambiguous physical contact was so subtle that Ji Yufei's heart beat faster. His mind went blank for a brief moment and he felt his heartbeat become disordered and chaotic. But soon, Ji Yufei figured it out. Yun acted like this because Xun'er's words just now made her angry, and her actions at this moment were intended to deliberately anger Xun'er. You too, how could you?" Xun'er's eyes froze when he saw Ji Yufei and Yun's ambiguous behavior. Xun'er becomes jealous, emotion value increases by 100. She stamped her feet, becoming even more jealous and extremely angry. "Ji Yufei, I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. It's only been a short time since we separated, and you've already found a new love. Who on earth do you take me for?" Xun'er becomes angry, emotion value increases by 100, jealous, angry. The system prompts faithfully informed Ji Yufei about Xun'er's emotional changes. Listening to her inexplicable jealousy, which then turned into anger, jealousy and other emotions, Ji Yufei felt even more disgusted. Xun'er is always good at pretending, and right now it's just possessiveness that's getting the better of him. She doesn't necessarily care about herself that much. I just don't want to see the man who once loved me deeply soon have another woman by his side. And that woman was even as beautiful as her. Ji Yufei knew that although Xun'er was very angry and looked very upset, it seemed that he really cared about him. But once her brother Xiaoyan showed up, then Xun'er would completely forget everything she had just said, and she would immediately throw herself into Xiaoyan's arms and not think about these things at all. Xiaoyan is always the first in Xun'er's heart, and Ji Yufei no longer cares about competing for her. "No matter what I do, it's much better than you cheating on me during marriage." Ji Yufei looked at Xun'er with some contempt and said in a deep voice, There was still disgust and disdain in his words, and it did not change at all because of Xun'er's expression. Ji Yufei was fed up with Xun'er's constant interruptions and temper tantrums. Without the filter of love he had in the past, he found that Xun'er was just a spoiled girl. Even if he really had something going on with Yun, they were divorced now and were in a free relationship. What did it have to do with Xun'er? Why should I pretend to catch him cheating, question him in the tone of a wife, and pretend to be affectionate? I'm sorry, I just didn't mean to do that. After hearing the conversation between Xun'er and Ji Yufei, Yun finally understood the relationship between them and said sorry to Ji Yufei. At this moment, she understood that the relationship between Ji Yufei and Xun'er was probably even more complicated. However, she had just used Ji Yufei to vent her anger. Just now, seeing Xun'er's jealous and angry look, Yun felt inexplicably happy and couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth as if he had won. At this time, her anger had subsided, so she let go of Ji Yufei's arm. At this moment, she realized that her previous action was too bold. It seemed that Ji Yufei's arm had come into contact with sensitive parts of his body. Yun becomes shy, emotional value increases by 100 thinking of this. Yun's face looked even rosier than when she came out of the cave, and even her neck turned a faint red. Even she herself was not clear about her actions just now. In fact, it was not just to irritate Xun'er. Rather, a big part of the reason was that she had developed some strange emotions towards Ji Yufei. How could Yun be that kind of woman? She was the most aloof and noble person, and would never get angry about such things. If it were any other man, even if Xun'er said that to her, she would not get angry and hold the man's arm, and she would not be bold enough to say such slightly flirtatious words. Moreover, the two of them had intimate and ambiguous physical contact, but was Yun really completely unaware of it, or was she tacitly agreeing in her heart? On the other side, Xun'er had been silenced by Ji Yufei's sharp words. She was the most delicate-minded, and could not stand the disgust and disdain in Ji Yufei's eyes when he looked at her. In the past, it was only her turn to dislike Ji Yufei, but since when did Ji Yufei look at her with only negative emotions in his eyes? She sighed, and actually missed the past. But soon, Xun'er realized what she was thinking. Her expression changed, she gritted her teeth and glared at Ji Yufei with dissatisfaction. Master Ji Yufei should have been breaking the seal for that girl just now. As a bystander, Ling Ying naturally has a more transparent view of things. He noticed some changes in the aura of the Yun cultivation base and explained to Xun'er. So that's how it is. They didn't do anything dirty in there. Hearing this, Xun'er suddenly realized. I couldn't help but feel guilty for saying some impatient words just now. In fact, this is human nature. Yun's appearance and temperament did make Xun'er feel a little threatened. I'm sorry, Ji Yufei. Xun'er intends to apologize. At this time, Ji Yufei was too lazy to pay attention to her, but turned to the Lion King and said, Lion King, what else do you want to prepare? Master, what I am most worried about is my child who has not yet grown up. If I leave, I'm afraid the monsters around will attack my child. The Lion King said worriedly. Don't worry about that, I will set a seal in your child's cave to keep it safe. After a few years, it will completely absorb the energy of the amethyst lion essence crystal inside. That will be the time for you to be reunited. Ji Yufei said lightly, and then went directly to the Lion King cave. Yun didn't want to face Xun'er and Ling Ying alone, so she also deployed Doqi wings and followed Ji Yufei. After the Lion King gave instructions to his child, the little amethyst beast, Ji Yufei began to seal the cave. With his strength, the seal will not be broken unless there is an extremely powerful Do Ancestor Peak or Do Venerable Expert taking action. Next, Ji Yufei went directly to the back of the Lion King. In this vast northwestern continent, it would be more convenient to have a 6th-level magical beast to travel with. In terms of speed, although it is not as fast as flying by yourself, it is enough. Goodbye. I will definitely thank you for your kindness this time if I have the chance in the future. Yun feels reluctant to leave, and her emotion value increases by 100. Yun said goodbye to Ji Yufei, feeling a little reluctant. She didn't know what was wrong with her. This was the first time she had such strange feelings towards a man. Chapter 35 Ji Yufei, Xiao Yixian, are you trying to chase me away? After Ji Yufei parted with Yun, He only wanted to see Xiao Yixian as soon as possible. I wonder how she is doing in the little valley all by herself. He sat on the back of the amethyst-winged Lion King and quickly headed to the small valley where Xiao Yixian was. It seems that I misunderstood him again. Xun'er saw with his own eyes that Ji Yufei and Yun Yun were acting separately, and also heard their conversation just now. Only then did she realize that she might have misunderstood Ji Yufei again. The jealousy from before completely disappeared, and Xun'er bit his lower lip. Xun'er feels guilty. Emotion value increases by 100. She felt a little guilty, wondering if her attitude just now was a bit too much, and wanted to follow Ji Yufei and explain things clearly. However, she hesitated for a moment. Xun'er knew that Ji Yufei hated her very much now and was unwilling to stay with her. After a long time, Xun'er sighed, and finally watched Ji Yufei's figure disappear from his sight like a meteor into the distance without moving a step. Forget it, let's find brother Xiao Yan first. I don't know what's happening to him alone. Ling Ying followed in silence, and the two began to look for Xiao Yan in the mountains again. No one mentioned the chaos that had just happened. At this moment, in the small valley, Xiao Yixian had been waiting for Ji Yufei for most of the day. If it were in the past, Xiao Yixian could stay alone for a long time in such a place with rich energy and beautiful scenery. But when she was waiting for Ji Yufei, even in this short half-day, her mind was very confused. She loves to daydream. A few butterflies were flying around by the window. Xiao Yixian held his chin with one hand and watched them entangled. The sunlight slanted down, and the girl's delicate face had no expression. The corners of her mouth, which were always raised when she faced Ji Yufei, now had no curve. As she waited in the small valley for most of the day, her face always looked a little gloomy. After tucking her messy hair behind her small ears with one hand, Xiao Yixian began to read the medical book seriously. After a moment, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. Xiao Yixian is actually a somewhat pessimistic person. Now that she is the only one in this huge valley, she always likes to think about negative things. She also thought about what would happen if Ji Yufei actually lied to her and never came back after leaving this time. At that time, should I hate that boy? Her mind was very complicated, her brows were furrowed, and she looked like a weak willow in the wind. Xiao Yixian becomes irritable, and his emotion value increases by 100 when Ji Yufei approached the valley. He received a prompt from the system. At this moment, the girl in the room was still reading a medical book, but soon she noticed a sound of breaking wind. Xiao Yixian is surprised, and his emotion value increases by 100. She looked up in great surprise, and what came into her sight was a ferocious and huge monster. The monster was huge, about 7 or 8 meters long, and its body was covered with a layer of purple crystals. The sunlight shines brightly and is quite dazzling. The head of the monster is a rather ferocious-looking lion head, with blood-red pupils emitting strange purple light, and a huge mouth full of fangs. On top of the lion's head, there is a fiery red spiral horn that is only half left, and clusters of purple flames are swirling around the tip of the horn. There is a pair of purple wings on the side of the huge lion's body. As the purple wings flapped, clusters of light purple flames swept out like a flamethrower, covering the sky and the earth. The 4 sturdy claws were also covered with a layer of purple crystals. Every time they took a step, the void would tremble. It was hard to imagine how powerful they were. A huge demon beast stood in the void, and an invisible pressure descended from the sky, causing Xiao Yixian's heart to tremble. Xiao Yixian becomes afraid, and his emotion value increases by 100. However, the monster did not seem to have any malicious intent, and it slowly descended to the ground. When Xiao Yixian saw clearly the familiar figure standing on the back of the monster, the corners of his mouth curled up and his eyes curved into a smile. Xiao Yixian becomes happy. With a mood value of 100, she lifted the hem of her long skirt and ran over anxiously, silver bells ringing, and the pretty girl ran towards Ji Yufei jumped down from the back of amethyst-winged Lion King. You must have waited for a long time. I was anxious to come back to see you. This is the mount I tamed. Were you scared by it just now? When Ji Yufei spoke to Xiao Yixian, he spoke softly and his voice was very gentle. Xiao Yixian nodded slightly, his face slightly red. Brother Ji Yufei is in a hurry to come back to see me. Xiao Yixian becomes shy, and his emotion value increases by 100. Ji Yufei touched the tip of his nose. He hadn't seen Xiao Yixian for a long time, and he had a lot to say to her. The two of them just stood beside Amethyst-winged Lion King and chatted. The Lion King was tall and just the right size to block out the sunlight for them. This is a 6th level magical beast. From now on, if we want to go somewhere else, it can take us. Xiao Yixian becomes surprised, and his emotion value increases by 100. Can you subdue a 6th level monster? Xiao Yixian becomes worried, and his emotion value increases by 100. Her eyes fell on Ji Yufei with a hint of worry. The monster looks very ferocious. Are you not injured? It was just a simple word of concern, but Ji Yufei felt his heartbeat quicken for a moment. This was the first girl who cared about whether he was injured since he became Do ancestor. Xun'er and Yun both knew that he was powerful, but they never asked him if he would get hurt. Ji Yufei smiled a little more gently and touched Missy's head. Of course not, how could I be hurt? Next, the two continued to spend 2 days in the small valley. Life without worries and pressure is so wonderful that Ji Yufei never mentioned leaving. However, Xiao Yixian knew very well in his heart that a person as outstanding as Ji Yufei, who was destined to be extraordinary, would not stay in such an isolated valley for long. She couldn't help feeling worried. Ji Yufei was stimulating, but he continued to receive system prompts. Xiao Yixian becomes anxious, his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian feels reluctant to leave, and his emotion value increases by 100. Silly Missy, what are you thinking about? Ji Yufei also noticed some of her emotional changes. Just as Ji Yufei was about to speak, Xiao Yixian spoke first. Brother Ji Yufei, if you have other things to do, you don't have to worry about me. I can live well here alone. Are you trying to drive me away? Hearing this, Ji Yufei pretended to be angry. Xiao Yixian becomes panicked, his emotion value increases by 100. No, it's not. Xiao Yixian shook his head repeatedly. I just think that this place is not suitable for your training. The outside world belongs to you. Xiao Yixian, if I go somewhere else, would you be willing to come with me? Ji Yufei asked very seriously. The air was silent for a moment, and Ji Yufei felt unusually uneasy. Xiao Yixian nodded and agreed almost without hesitation. Chapter 36, I can make any alchemy pill you want. Well, prepare yourself in the next few days and leave with me when the time comes. Ji Yufei reached out and touched Xiao Yixian's head, with a gentle look in his eyes that he had never seen since Ji Yu Domain and Xun'er divorced. Xiao Yixian becomes shy, and his emotion value increases by 100. She glanced secretly at Ji Yufei, her eyes full of smiles. The edge area of the Warcraft Mountains. 8 poles collapsing blast. In a dense forest, a giant black ruler chopped a swift wolf's waist at a tricky angle. After suffering such a severe blow, the wind wolf let out a wail and fell to the ground completely. The person fighting was Xiao Yan. He was on the edge of the Warcraft Mountains, honing himself in battle every day and growing through life and death battles. This time, Xiao Yan faced the Gale Wolf, a 2nd-level monster known for its speed. It was quite difficult for a high-level Do master to deal with it. If it weren't for the training during this period of time, which had gained a lot of combat experience, Xiao Yan would not have been able to kill the Wind Wolf in such a short time. However, although Xiao Yan defeated the Wind Wolf, the person next to him was also injured and blood was constantly flowing out. Damn beast! Xiao Yan cursed inwardly and walked towards a cave not far away. He did not choose to collect the body of the Wind Wolf, but planned to let its aura intimidate the surrounding monsters, so that he could relax for a moment. On the other side, Xun'er and Ling Ying were already very close to this place. Xun'er's eyes moved, and he stopped at the entrance of a cave as if he had sensed something. Ling Ying looked at her and cautiously probed into the cave. He sensed a familiar, weak breath. Miss, find him. After searching for 2 whole days, Xun'er and Ling Ying finally found Xiao Yan. Xun'er and Ling Ying hurried into the cave. Xun'er was very surprised to see cultivation Xiao Yan sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. But when she turned her beautiful eyes, she found that there were almost dried blood and scars on Xiao Yan's arm. Xun'er. Xiao Yan opened his eyes and was surprised to see Xun'er suddenly appear. Brother Xiao Yan, are you okay? Xun'er asked with concern, bandaging the wound on Xiao Yan's arm distressedly. The two met again, and Xiao Yan did not ask where Xun'er had been during this time. He knew in his heart that Xun'er was a being that he could not pursue at the moment, and he could not expect Xun'er to always be by his side. We need to work harder. The two sat down, and Xun'er helped him wipe the blood off his arm. his movements very gently. She bit her lower lip, hesitated for a moment, and whispered, "Brother Xiao Yan, I'm sorry." Xiao Yan raised his eyes and looked at her puzzledly. "Someone wanted to kill you before, it was because of me, my family." "I'm sorry." Xun'er lowered his eyes, not daring to look at Xiao Yan, but Xiao Yan touched his head gently. "It's okay, I can't blame you." Immediately, he narrowed his eyes, and a hint of coldness appeared on his still young face. Can a powerful person take someone's life at will? There was inevitably anger in Xiao Yan's words. He had not yet learned how to control his emotions. Thinking of Yao Lao who had not yet awakened in the storage ring, Xiao Yan frowned. Before, Ji Yao just said it casually, but his men came all the way to Northwest Continent, and attacked him to death as soon as they met him. Of course, Xiao Yan was no match for the Ji clan strongman and ended up in a life-or-death situation. If it weren't for the critical moment when Yao Lao seized the opportunity to rescue him, he would probably have died. So at this moment Xiao Yan was still angry. Of course, he was not blaming Xun'er. Xun'er's background is mysterious, and I'm afraid he has no choice. Afterwards, Xiao Yan shared his next plans. "Xun'er, I want to train in the Monster Mountain Range, and while upgrading the cultivation base, I will also look for the elixir that can heal the soul trauma." Even now, Xiao Yan still hasn't mentioned Yao Lao's existence to Xun'er. Xun'er also understood him and did not ask him why he suddenly wanted to restore the soul trauma medicine. She thought of the mysterious strong man beside Xiao Yan before, and because of what happened before, she felt very guilty, and said seriously, "Brother Xiao Yan, don't worry, I will find the soul recovery medicine for you as soon as possible." Hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with a touch of emotion, and he agreed. He closed his eyes again and took the time to recover and consume Do Qi. The cave fell into silence. Misty Valley. After living in the valley with Xiao Yixian for 2 or 3 days, Ji Yufei was finally ready to leave. That day, he took Xiao Yixian to the back of the Lion King and planned to cross the Warcraft Mountains. Ji Yufei grabbed Xiao Yixian's slender waist, jumped up, and landed on the Lion King's broad back. Xiao Yixian feels reluctant to leave, and his emotion value increases by 100 after Xiao Yixian came up. He looked back at the small valley with a nostalgic look. "Brother Ji Yufei, can we come back here in the future?" Ji Yufei touched her furry head. "Of course, I'll bring you back whenever you want." Xiao Yixian then revealed a sweet smile. Then, a transparent energy shield appeared on the Lion King's back. This is to protect the people inside from the hurricane caused by high-speed flight. This is extremely dangerous for the people of Jia Ma Empire, but it has no effect on Ji Yufei at all. Those low-level monsters, sensing the breath of the Lion King, all crawled on the ground. How dare they come out to block the way? The purpose of Ji Yufei's trip is to cross the Warcraft Mountains and go to the eastern border of the Jia Ma Empire. The eastern border is close to the Tager Desert, where Ji Yufei can find the Heavenly Flame and the second remaining map of the Demon Fire. When the Lion King flew for a long time, Ji Yufei took out an alchemy pill from a jade bottle and planned to feed it to the Lion King to restore its strength. Is this the alchemy pill? It's definitely not comparable to the crude way I used ordinary flames to fuse the herbs together. Looking at the roundness and glossiness of the alchemy pill's surface, Xiao Yixian was amazed. "Not everyone needs to make an alchemy pill. I'll be by your side from now on. I can make any alchemy pill you need." Ji Yufei spoke softly. He knew that Xiao Yixian's dream was to become an alchemist, but unfortunately, his attributes did not match. Xiao Yixian is moved, and his emotion value increases by 100 listening to Ji Yufei's words. Xiao Yixian nodded obediently, with smiles in his eyes. He also felt relieved that he could not become an alchemist. After several days of flying, Amethyst-winged Lion King finally arrived at the edge of the desert. Perhaps due to its proximity to the desert, the weather here is quite dry and hot, and the scorching air makes travelers passing by sweat profusely. The scorching sun poured down from the sky, baking the ground beneath our feet and emitting suffocating heat. The heat slowly rose up, causing people's vision to become distorted and blurred. From a distance, the entire desert seemed a little distorted. Chapter 37. Has it been exposed? Amethyst-winged Lion King stopped briefly at the edge of the desert because the surrounding climate was too hot. It's so hot. Without the protection of a shield, Xiao Yixian's forehead was continuously oozing with sweat, and his long purple hair was wet and a little sticky. She loved cleanliness the most, but seeing that Ji Yufei was in deep thought about something, she did not disturb him. He just silently shook his wrists to fan himself. Although he had made some preparations before coming, there were always some omissions. Xiao Yixian was now wearing clothes that were a little thick. It's spring all year round in Qingshan town, so people wear thicker clothes. It's terribly hot here. Ji Yufei turned his head to look at her and waved his right hand. A layer of Do-Chi barrier enveloped the two of them, and Xiao Yixian soon felt that the climate had become much more comfortable. Xiao Yixian becomes happy, and his emotion value increases by 100 after some adjustments. Amethyst-winged Lion King flew back into the sky and headed towards Ji Yufei's destination. Ji Yufei's first destination was the cultivation base that was sealed by Queen Medusa and hidden in the desert city of Haibodong. Looking at the yellow city gradually appearing in the field of vision, Ji Yufei did not slow down, but directly ordered Amethyst-winged Lion King to fly over. Xiao Yixian sat on the Lion King's back and leaned his head out to look at the city not far away. Her pupils dilated with excitement, and her whole body was about to pop out. Xiao Yixian becomes excited, and his emotion value increases by 100. Brother Ji Yufei, the desert scenery is so beautiful. This is the first time I've seen a city in the desert. Ji Yufei pulled her back helplessly. Be careful, I won't catch you if you fall. Xiao Yixian curled his lips and sat back obediently, but his expression was still looking down with reluctance. Her eyebrows raised high, her face suddenly turned a beautiful pink, and her eyes widened. Xiao Yixian becomes shy, and his emotion value increases by 100. Brother Ji Yufei, why are those people dressed so cool? Ji Yufei looked in the direction of the voice, with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Although he knew the description in the original book, it was the first time he saw it with his own eyes, and he couldn't help but feel a little curious like Xiao Yixian. As they gradually approached the city, more and more people passed by. Most of the men on these passers-by were shirtless. Their skin is dark and smart, and they look quite generous at first glance. Occasionally, there would be a woman passing by, whose skin, although also slightly dark, was more of a sexy bronze color. The women here are not as reserved and shy as those in the empire. They wear tight leather jackets that just covered their breasts and a little bit of the area below. But those slender waists were boldly exposed. The slender and taut thighs are also only covered by some short skirts or shorts. When walking, the waist twists like a snake, which has a unique charming charm and style. This style is very modern. Ji Yufei was used to seeing reserved and restrained outfits, so when he occasionally saw these women dressed sexy, he was stunned. Xiao Yixian becomes jealous, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian of course noticed his reaction, bit her lower lip, and turned her head away angrily. The next moment, Ji Yufei withdrew his gaze, sighed helplessly, and looked at Xiao Yixian with some amusement. He muttered to himself, it's just so, not as good looking as our Xiao Yixian. Xiao Yixian becomes proud, and his emotion value increases by 100. Xiao Yixian then snorted and turned his head. They were laughing and joking, and Xiao Yixian lowered his head and then looked up at the yellow city whose specific scale he could already see. Inside the city, urban buildings with unique desert characteristics appeared in the field of vision. The strange-looking houses were an eye-opener. I saw two huge light red characters carved on the city wall above the city gate. From a distance, they actually had a faint bloody feeling. Desert City. Ji Yufei whispered this and smiled. As the amethyst-winged Lion King flew closer and gradually lowered its altitude, the originally slack-looking city guards and the pedestrians outside were all filled with fear. Ji Yu Rao has fear emotion. Emotion value increases by 0.1. Moshe becomes afraid, and his emotion value increases by 0.1. Most people have never seen a warcraft as huge as the amethyst-winged Lion King. Ji Yufei glanced at them calmly, and soon after, the Lion King stopped directly above the city. Next, Ji Yufei put his arm around Xiao Yixian's waist, descended through the void, and arrived in the city. The city guard, who originally bullied the weak and feared the strong, just looked at him fearfully, shrank back and dared not speak. His appearance immediately caused a huge sensation in the city. Yuan Jing is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 0.1. Coptus Chinensis produces worship emotions, and the emotion value increases by 0.1. The desert environment is closed, outsiders generally don't come in, and people inside don't go out. People from this place have never seen such a big scene. A young boy who looks only 16 or 17 years old not only possesses such a terrifying flying monster, but can even fly in the air. It's incredible. Xiao Yixian chuckled. These people's reactions were exactly the same as when she first witnessed Ji Yufei's strength, which was of course normal. After all, anyone who sees a monster like Ji Yufei would be scared. Then, Ji Yufei paused and called out to a passerby. "Excuse me, where is the shop that sells maps?" The passerby had just seen the calm-looking young man leap off the huge monster and land easily on the ground from midair. Facing such a powerful man, he didn't dare not answer, and directly told Ji Yufei the locations of several best map shops in the city. "Come on, let's go eat something first." After asking for directions, Ji Yufei did not rush to take Xiao Yixian to find the way, but instead planned to take Xiao Yixian to find a restaurant in the city for dinner. After all, they had been traveling for a long time, so he was fine, but Xiao Yixian's cultivation base was not as good as him, so he might be a little hungry. At this time, because the Lion King was still hovering over the city, everyone in the city was very afraid. From time to time, fearful glances were cast at the huge flying monster in the sky. The monster was calm, but the pedestrians below were probably scared to death. Even if it had no desire to attack, it was like a knife hanging over their heads. How could they not be afraid? Xiao Yixian hesitated for a moment and said to Ji Yufei, "Why don't we let the Lion King go outside first? This will scare the people in the city." "Good." Hearing this, Ji Yufei nodded. Since Xiao Yixian brought it up, even though he didn't care about it, he agreed directly. He sent a message to the Lion King, asking him to circle outside the city. When Ji Yufei and Xiao Yixian were having dinner in a restaurant, an old man with white hair walked out of an ancient shop in the city. He also saw the 6th-level flying monster, and a deep thought flashed in his eyes. Did someone discover me? Chapter 38. Do you want to be so miserable for the rest of your life? No, I think I'm overthinking. After this thought came to his mind, the old man shook his head again. He thought that if anyone found him here, they would come straight here. But now, after an incense stick of time had passed, there was still no movement from his side. At this time, the chaos in the city was slowly recovering as the amethyst-winged Lion King flew away from the city. So he put his worries aside. "Are you full?" In Mo City, on the balcony of a restaurant called Liang Restaurant, Ji Yufei looked at Xiao Yixian opposite him with a smile on his face. "Yeah, I'm full." Hearing this, Xiao Yixian smiled and nodded, then took out the handkerchief he carried with him and wiped the oil stains from the corners of his mouth. Although the conversation between the two was extremely bland, it was this blandness that further demonstrated the advancement of their relationship. Now, when the two of them get along, they no longer have the restraint they had when they first met. Everything is very relaxed and casual. This way of getting along is the most comfortable. Well, now accompany me to buy a map. Ji Yufei stood up and left the restaurant with Xiao Yixian. Next, Ji Yufei and Xiao Yixian walked through several streets in the city and soon arrived outside the quaint shop. The name of the shop is Gutu. Unlike other shops, it is not as luxurious and ostentatious. At first glance, it has a hint of ancient style. Ji Yufei and Xiao Yixian walked into the shop side by side. The interior of the shop was not too spacious. The faint light from the 2 moonstones made the shop quite bright. There were not many people inside buying maps, so it was a little deserted. Ji Yufei glanced around and finally stopped at an old man behind the counter who was carefully making a map with his head down. The old man was obviously quite old, but even though he had a head full of white hair, the hand holding the black pen was still steady and powerful. It seems that this person is Hai Bodong. Ji Yufei smiled and said something in his heart, but did not go directly to the counter to ask. At this moment, Ji Yufei's aura was restrained. Even Hai Bodong, a former Do sovereign powerhouse, could not detect Ji Yufei's aura. Therefore, Ji Yufei and Xiao Yixian's entry did not attract Hai Bodong's attention. Next, Ji Yufei came alone to an ancient wooden shelf in the corner of the store. This wooden frame is obviously very old and is covered with rotten wood holes. On top of it, some yellowed maps were randomly piled up. Looking at the damaged marks on the surface of these maps, it seemed that they were failed products when making the maps, and this was exactly where Ji Yufei was aiming. He casually flipped through these yellowed maps, and a faint musty smell came to his face, making him frown slightly. The next moment, Ji Yufei picked up a stack of failed works, his palms trembling slightly. As he shook, a broken picture the size of a palm suddenly fell out from the pile of failed works. It's here. Ji Yufei was not surprised to see the fallen fragment of the map. He already knew all this. Once the remaining images of pure lotus demonic flame are gathered together, they can become a secret means to counterbalance pure lotus demonic flame when the demonic fire is born. What is this? It looks like a treasure map, but it has serious missing parts. Xiao Yixian took a look at the incomplete map in Ji Yufei's hand, and was somewhat curious as to why Ji Yufei was holding such a thing. Haha, this is a good thing. Ji Yufei smiled and didn't explain too much. Instead, he took the incomplete map to the counter and asked, "Old sir, do you have any other incomplete maps like this?" Ji Yufei knew that there was another incomplete map in Haibodong. After he got the incomplete map, he studied it for a long time but could not find the answer, so he divided his own copy into two. As Ji Yufei finished his words, the old man at the counter finally stopped drawing the map and raised his head abruptly. His eyes looked a little fierce, and there was a scary scar from his left cheek to the corner of his eye, which made Xiao Yixian feel a little scared, and he subconsciously grabbed the corner of Ji Yufei's clothes. "Don't be afraid." Ji Yufei noticed Xiao Yixian's actions and gently touched her head. "Have you ever seen such a fragment of a picture?" the old man asked in surprise. Haibodong produces a surprised emotion, and the emotion value increases by 80 inches. Well, I have seen it before. I wonder if you would be willing to sell this collection of maps to me. Ji Yufei nodded with a smile. "Not for sale." The old man shook his head. Although his voice was calm, it contained a sense of indisputable certainty. "Old man, as long as you are willing to sell, you can name any price." Although he was rejected by Haibodong, Ji Yufei still did not give up. He is determined to obtain the remaining map of the demon fire. "Young man, don't think about this incomplete map of mine. I don't care about money, and don't think about robbing it. It won't do you any good if you do that." The old man behind the counter waved his hand and said lightly. He didn't seem afraid that Ji Yufei would run away with the remaining map of the demon fire in his hand. "Brother Ji Yufei, since the old man is determined not to sell, let's go." Xiao Yixian said this very simply. She didn't want Ji Yufei to have a conflict with the old man. In addition, in her opinion, Ji Yufei would not do such a thing as robbery. "Don't worry, he will choose to sell it." Hearing this, Ji Yufei smiled at Xiao Yixian, then turned to look at the old man. "You said so, right, the former Dou sovereign strongman. Who are you?" As Ji Yufei finished his words, a fierce light suddenly flashed in the eyes of the old man at the counter, and a strong aura spread. Haibodong is shocked and suspicious, and his emotion value increases by 80 inches. What's going on? This sudden change made Xiao Yixian a little surprised, but now she was also aware of Ji Yufei's strength, so she was not panicked. On Ji Yufei's side, he emitted a ray of warm breath to protect Xiao Yixian, so that Xiao Yixian would not be affected by the icy and bone-chilling aura. "Young man, I didn't expect you to have some basics." Looking at Ji Yufei, who was not harmed at all by his aura, the white-haired old man couldn't help but feel a little surprised. "So, what is your choice now, old sir?" Ji Yufei nodded slightly without comment and said with a smile. "I said I would not sell it to anyone. If you intend to take it away by force, don't blame me for bullying the weak." He said it lightly, and the white hair behind the old man moved without wind. Icy qi lingered around the body. At this time, Xiao Yixian stood aside very obediently and did not interrupt. "If I told you that I could remove the seal in your body, would you not consider it? Do you want to stay in this small border town for the rest of your life and be an ordinary shop owner selling maps?" Chapter 39. The Ice Emperor breaks the seal. How could such a monstrous person exist in the world? Can you really break my seal? After hearing Ji Yufei's words, Haibodong's eyes flickered and he was obviously a little shaken. Haibodong becomes hesitant, and his emotion value increases by 80 inches. "Do you know who put the seal on me?" But soon, Haibodong's eyes showed a hint of sarcasm, and he said with a smile, "You are just a young boy, and you dare to say that you can unlock the seal that I have been unable to break for decades." Haibodong generates disdain and suspicion. Emotional value increases by 80 inches. Haha. it seems that if I want you to believe me, I have to show my cultivation base. Listening to Hai Bodong's ridicule, Ji Yufei chuckled and shook his head. At the same time, he no longer deliberately restrained the aura of cultivation base. An extremely domineering aura emanated from him, and in just a moment, Hai Bodong was stunned in place with his pupils dilated. How is that possible? This kind of aura, even Queen Medusa back then was not so strong. Hai Bodong generates horror emotion. Emotion value increases by 80 inches. This boy is so young, yet he possesses such terrifying strength. It seems that he can really break my seal. A glimmer of hope rose in Hai Bodong's heart, but at this moment, he was also quite afraid of Ji Yufei. A genius like Ji Yufei has simply refreshed his worldview. Hai Bodong generates anticipation and fear. Emotional value increases by 80 inches. Haha, old sir, there's no need to worry. Since I said I want to exchange, I won't do anything to snatch it away. Knowing Hai Bodong's mood, Ji Yufei said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Hai Bodong felt relieved. If Ji Yufei wanted to rob it by force, he would be helpless because of the aura Ji Yufei had just displayed. Even if Hai Bodong had not been sealed, he would be no match for Ji Yufei. My friend, to be honest with you, I was once one of the top 10 strongest men in this Jama Empire. Hai Bodong, I'm sure you've heard of him. Hai Bodong changed his address to Ji Yufei from boy to little friend, and when he said this, he seemed to have some expectations in his heart. I've heard of it. The name of Ice Emperor is very famous. Hearing this, Ji Yufei nodded. His response made Hai Bodong look proud, and he sighed in his heart. Even though I have disappeared for so many years, my fame is still spreading across the empire. Then where are you from, my friend? Hai Bodong continued to ask. I am not from Jama Empire. Ji Yufei said bluntly. I came here because I heard that Heavenly Flame appeared in Tajer Desert, so I came here to look for it. On the side, Xiao Yixian was not surprised when she heard these words, because Ji Yufei had already told her about the search for Heavenly Flame. I see. Hearing this, Hai Bodong seemed to be thinking about something. He did not doubt Ji Yufei's words. After all, in a place like Jama Empire, it was difficult for a monstrous figure like Ji Yufei to appear. Perhaps, only the vast central plains can give birth to such heaven's pride. My friend just said that he is willing to help me remove the seal, but are you serious? The next moment, Hai Bodong finally mentioned the matter of his seal. Of course it's true. Ji Yufei nodded confidently. The seal of Hai Bodong was created by Queen Medusa. To unlock the seal, one can choose to use a high-level alchemy pill, or one can break the seal by force. With Ji Yufei's current cultivation base, it is not difficult to do this. Okay, if you can really break my seal, you can take this incomplete map. In addition, I have stayed here for decades, and I can also provide you with some Heavenly Flame news as a reward. After getting Ji Yufei's affirmative answer, Hai Bodong also showed his sincerity. This incomplete map alone is not enough. After Hai Bodong offered the reward, Ji Yufei smiled and shook his head, saying, there are some marks on one side of this incomplete map, which is different from the other side. It is obvious that it has been divided. I didn't expect that this boy not only has a strong cultivation base, but also has an extremely delicate mind. Hearing Ji Yufei's words, Hai Bodong's expression changed slightly, and he was surprised again. Hai Bodong is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 80 inches. My friend, you guessed right. I did divide this thing into 2 parts. I hid the other part. If you can break my seal, I will give you the remaining part. Hai Bodong hesitated for a moment and nodded. It would be impossible for him to hand over the second incomplete map before breaking the seal. Then let's get started. Ji Yufei did not hesitate. It would not take much time to unlock a seal. I wonder how you plan to break my seal? Hai Bodong asked. During these years, he has been trying to find a way to break the seal, and found a recipe for a pill called Breaking Evil. Pill. However, he has been unable to find an alchemist who can refine the TIER6 alchemy pill and has Heavenly Flame, and he is still missing one herb. This kind of seal can be broken directly with Do Qi. As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of hot Do Qi emerged from Ji Yufei's palms. This powerful Do Qi fluctuation made Hai Bodong's face pale instantly. Before he could react, his body was wrapped by Ji Yufei's powerful Do Qi. Immediately afterwards, a large amount of Do Qi began to flow into Hai Bodong's body. After a while, Hai Bodong's body trembled violently for a while, and his old face suddenly tensed up. At his forehead, a strange dark green energy was rapidly condensing. After a moment, a tiny, dark green energy snake pattern was formed. These snake patterns are the key to blocking Hai Bodong's body's Do Qi. And now, Ji Yufei only needs to completely erase these snake patterns to break the seal. The next process may be a bit painful, so be prepared. Ji Yufei reminded Hai Bodong, then he moved the seal in his hand, and a stream of energy suddenly surged out from Hai Bodong's body. Ah! At this moment, Hai Bodong's veins bulged, as if he was enduring tremendous pain, but this time was not long. After a while, the snake patterns were squeezed out of Hai Bodong's body by Ji Yufei Do Qi energy. As soon as those snake patterns left Hai Bodong's head, they trembled violently, and then turned into a puff of green smoke and dissipated. The moment the snake pattern left the body, Hai Bodong's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened. The brilliance burst out from his eyes as if it were real, and a fierce aura, like a lion awakening, burst out from the body that had been suppressed for decades. Ha ha! This damn seal is finally gone. I am Do Sovereign again. The seal was broken. Hai Bodong's face was filled with ecstasy, and he raised his head and laughed wildly. Chapter 40 Ji Yu He, is there anyone in Jia Ma Empire whose alchemy skills are better than mine? Yunlin Sect. As the most powerful sect in the Jia Ma Empire, the Yunlin Sect is located directly on a majestic mountain only 10 miles away from the capital of the Jia Ma Empire. Because of the name of Yunlin Sect, this mountain is also called Yunlin Mountain. A mountain is actually named after a sect, which shows how extraordinary it is. Yunlin Mountain is steep, surrounded by cliffs on 3 sides, and has only one road leading to the top of the mountain. It can be said to be a dangerous place that is easy to defend but difficult to attack. Moreover, the entire mountain is patrolled closely by disciples of the Yunlin sect at all times, and the entire mountain is like a small fortress. Only 2 miles away from the foot of Yunlin Mountain, there are 50,000 cavalry stationed by the empire. Although these 50,000 cavalrymen are said to be guarding the capital, anyone can see that this is the ruler of the empire, guarding against the ferocious tiger approaching the capital. The huge size of Yunlin sect can be seen from this. At this moment, outside the main hall of the Yunlin sect, a middle-aged man with a rather elegant appearance walked in a little anxiously. This person is the Yunlin sect elder, Ji Yu He. At the same time, he is also the most powerful alchemist in the Jia Ma Empire. After hearing that Yun Yun had returned to the sect, Ji Yu He rushed over quickly. Sect Master. At this time, Yun Yun was also in the hall. As soon as Ji Yu He came in, he quickly greeted her and turned to look at her. Sect Master, did you get the purple spirit crystal on this trip? I heard that a very horrific battle broke out in the Monster Mountain range a few days ago. It should be between you and the amethyst-winged Lion King. Yun Yun's eyes flickered, and he shook his head, indicating in silence that he did not get the purple spirit crystal. She has been feeling a little absent-minded ever since she left the Monster Mountain range. Hearing this, Ji Yu He also sighed. He thought that Yun Yun's emotions were because she didn't get the purple spirit crystal. If he had the purple spirit crystal, he could refine the purple crystal pill and give it to Yanren. But the next moment, Yun Yun blinked, a smile suddenly appeared on his face, and he said, although I didn't get the purple spirit crystal, I accidentally got an alchemy pill that is better than the purple crystal pill from a young alchemist. Hearing this, Ji Yu He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, a little suspicious. Just as he was about to ask Yun Yun, he was interrupted by Yun Yun. I have given Yanren the alchemy pill. At least, so far, the effect is very good. There are no side effects, and the cultivation base has grown very solidly. It's so perfect that it doesn't even look like an alchemy pill. Yun Yun's voice was full of admiration. After all medicine is poisonous. Although most alchemy pills have mild effects, they all have some erysipelas. It is okay to take it occasionally, but taking it in large quantities for a long time will easily damage the essence. Yun Yun did not encourage Nolan Yanren to take the alchemy pill, but she was only thinking about quickly improving her cultivation base, and she was also confident in Ji Yu He's ability in refining medicine, so she took the initiative to help him find the purple spirit crystal. But the alchemy pill that Ji Yu Fei gave her was different. She didn't sense any toxicity. It is mild and harmless and seems to have no side effects at all. It is estimated that within a month, after digesting the power of the alchemy pill, Nolan Yanran will be able to successfully break through to the Great Do Master realm. He couldn't help but frown when he saw Yun praising other alchemists. How powerful can an alchemy pill made by a young man be? Moreover, for the Do Master who wants to touch the Great Do Master realm, his amethyst pill is the best choice. Where did this young man get the formula for the alchemy pill? However, he then checked with his own eyes and found that after Nolan Yanran took the alchemy pill, his cultivation base had indeed improved significantly. The aura around her was noticeably heavier, and the Do Chi seemed to be cultivated from solid energy, very stable. This alchemy pill indeed exceeds the expected effect of the amethyst pill. Such a result also made he feel difficult to say what he was holding in his heart. Before, Yun asked him to refine the alchemy pill, and he put forward a condition, which was that Yun and he had to go to the Tajer desert to find the heavenly flame. Yun readily agreed at that time, and promised he that after he successfully refined the amethyst pill and gave it to Nolan Yanran, she would help him find heavenly flame. But now, before he refined the amethyst pill, Yun had already obtained the better and milder alchemy pill from someone else, which made he feel a little embarrassed to speak up. After all, this was considered a broken promise on his part, so he had no nerve to ask for compensation. He's lips moved. Although Yun was a little slow, she knew what he wanted to say because she had seen it many times. Elder Koga, don't worry, I will still help you with what I promised you before. Just consider it as a thank you for helping Yunlin sect so much before. Yun said coldly. After all, he has made a great contribution to Yunlin sect. You know, the alchemy pill of the Pill King is hard to come by in the outside world. When he helped them refine the alchemy pill in Yunlin sect, he usually only charged a very small fee, or asked them to accompany him when he went out to do something like this time. After all, although he is good at refining medicine, he is still not strong enough to protect himself. His best option is to select a few powerful bodyguards, and exchange them for the alchemy pills he made. Yun is the sect master. Although he was unable to help her this time, it would be unreasonable for her not to go and help her. Thank you, sect master. He was overjoyed, and then said, this should be done as soon as possible, let's set off tomorrow. Yun readily agreed. In Shimo City, with the help of Yu Fei, Hai Bodong finally restored the Do sovereign cultivation base. He broke the seal and felt the long-lost strength in his body. But Hai Bodong still didn't dare to attack Yu Fei, and handed over the half of the map as promised with great pain. In addition, he also gave Yu Fei a map he drew that might contain the location of Heavenly Flame. Of course, Yu Fei doesn't actually need the Heavenly Flame position, because he knew that the Heavenly Flame had already been taken away by Queen Medusa. If we go looking for it now, it will be a wasted trip. All Yu Fei needed was a map of the desert. Very good, thank you very much. Yu Fei took it with a smile, then left the Gutu shop with Xiao Yixian. Next, we need to actually enter the desert. Shimo City can actually only be regarded as the outer edge of the desert, and what they are about to go to is the deep desert where there is no human habitation. The climate there is bad, very hot, and water resources are scarce, so Yu Fei starts to take Xiao Yixian to Shimo City to purchase some supplies. In the desert, water is essential, and some food was also purchased. Xiao Yixian followed Yu Fei obediently. Yu Fei did not ask her to help with the things, but put them all into the storage ring. After collecting supplies, they left the city, got on the back of the Lion King, and set off again into the depths of the desert.